Aaron Shive is kicking off here into the field. Oh, and Branch. That's a great job. What a great job by Zachariah Branch. Freshman to the house. 96 yards.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
So 1st and 10, Jadarian Price back in there. And he's got the handoff. Price finds the hole, and he's gone. Touchdown, Irish.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Falk kicks it, and McGowan, one of the fastest men in the SEC, receives it at the 3. And here comes the sophomore, Jaden McGowan. Watch out! 97 yards.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
So a big 4-minute drill coming for Louisiana Tech. Fake it to Moody. Blockmeyer delivers over the middle. Caught. Smoak Harris inside the 25-yard line. Goodbye. Touchdown. Smoak Harris takes it the distance.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Play action now on 1st down. Taking another shot over the middle of the field. It's caught. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Jaden Greathouse, the freshman. Perfectly there for Hartman.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Zachariah Branch. And there's the freshman's first USC touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We have evidence. We finally have, although not a full schedule, evidence in college football. We have the first full weekend coming up. Good afternoon. This is 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak, and we have to look back at the first weekend. Not overreact, but maybe a couple of nuggets. Arizona State will spend their first year in the Big 12 with a bowl ban. No, actually, it's this year. The bowl ban is this year. And I saw a reaction from Ryan Leaf and how he thought about this, the former Washington State quarterback. We'll have that and more, still more, simmering on what might happen with the ACC. A really dark day back in the spring for Frank Harris at UTSA. We'll have that for you. And so much more to get to. Let's get off. You heard some of the highlights. Paul and I have maybe talked for just a little bit today. Had nothing to do with the highlights. Craig Smoak as well. And I had down Sam Hartman looked really good. I know it was Notre Dame Navy, but he looked really good. And then Zachariah Branch from USC, explosive as possible. Heard both of those names in the open. And weekend 1, 0, or whatever you want to call it in college football is done.
Yeah, I think that the things I took away from the obviously the bigger games were USC and Notre Dame. Those are the teams that are right now thought to be college football playoff contenders. Notre Dame, the things that they're going to love about Sam Hartman, they're not going to know that they love him about him, because some of the things that he does that are maddening, this is from watching him all his years at Wake Forest, is this is a guy who, when there's 3.5 minutes left in the game and you're up by one score, and you just need to get one crummy first down so that even if you do give them the ball back, they're scrambling, he gets that first down. Like, it's just that 3rd and 6, Sam Hartman gets it. At the end of the first half, you don't want to give them the ball back so they can kick a field goal. He winds off that 45 seconds that you need. He just does those little things really well, and he looked really good. That offense looks like it's even with freshmen like Jaden Greathouse from Austin Westlake scored touchdowns the other day. He's a true freshman, really good player. They looked really good. USC looks great on offense. I worry about their defense, though. I just don't know that they are going to muscle up enough, but maybe that's a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same types of thoughts. Notre Dame looked good. You expected them to go and handle their business against Navy, but they did it pretty emphatically and without, breaking too much of a sweat. And certainly Sam Hartman gives them a little bit of a different swagger at quarterback than they've had in quite some time. As was pointed out constantly throughout that broadcast and just in general when people talk about that game, I mean, it's just obvious that he's a real talent back there that was a great addition for them and, could be one of those pieces of the machine that propels them to greater lengths than they've, seen lately. Although they've, had many successes in recent history, it's just that that's a guy that you're going, okay, like that could be a real difference maker for them. So I think that was evident on weekend number one, not voting him number one in the Heisman. There's a lot of other players to see, but that was a big time offseason move. And especially in this era of the transfer quarterback, Notre Dame got into that ball game and I think they found themselves a really good player that will be a fun story to watch the rest of the year. But yeah, I mean, they handled their business and never had too much trouble with the midshipmen. USC, I think, the offense is never going to be too much of an issue. Certainly, though, there were some issues. It being week number one, we saw a lot of sloppy football in some ways. But, Caleb Williams is going to be a star, but they're going to have to block better for him. I think he was getting touched a little bit too much. And that defense is still, a bit of a question mark. I don't think that anything's been solved over on that side. I think there's plenty of reasons to still be quite pessimistic about, Alex Grinch and just kind of what they're doing over on that side of the football. But it's week one. Don't want to overreact too much, but those were a couple of the main things heading into this kind of half weekend. Sam Hartman's Irish debut, USC and how they were going to look on both sides of the ball. And there's still some questions for the Trojans, but Notre Dame certainly has answered a big one.
I think those were two of the ones that mentioned. Zachariah Branch, who came in late in the game and took a little pass out in the flat from Caleb and then returned to kickoff 96 yards. They're obviously explosive. But there was one other storyline in the first week of college football. Paxton sent me a text. Now, I give out my number quite a bit, and I'm okay with that because sometimes you may have won something or I don't mind doing that. And a lot of you, it's fantastic. But if you don't hear me respond, it means I'm zoned in on doing some things. But he sent me out a text having to do with this particular tweet, which came on later in the day. This is from Jeff Schwartz. 12 plays and a half the quarter is gone after one drive. Just like the NFL, congrats on the new clock rules in college football, something everyone wanted. Thanks. In other words, the game is going by very fast. You may not see many games where you're going to, back in the days when you could run 90 to 100 plays. Now, when you're playing Navy, it's kind of a little bit unique because of the offense they run that soaks out the clock too.
Well, I know we can't go over every game. I wanted to add a little bit more. San Diego State, they had to be breathing a big sigh of relief in getting the win that they did at home against Ohio, especially, given the circumstances of just kind of everything going on, opening up at Snapdragon Stadium. I think that was a bit of a anxiety thing. And then Vanderbilt Clark Lee being able to, eke out that game there at the end against Hawaii. It's a big deal for a program that's rebuilding. So I wanted to add those on as well and not just focus on the big brands. But there were others, other contests we can talk about along the way. But yeah, that was certainly, one of the things to pay attention to and see how it might change the game. And I think we've seen a very small sample size. I think people overreact to very small sample sizes probably too often, but we'll get a lot more examples here in just a few days and have a bigger pool to kind of see if this is now the new norm or if this is just going to be sample size. It's not going to be as bad as we think it is, but certainly going off of what we've seen so far, Paul, there's a team like Baylor that you could envision holding the ball for an entire quarter basically and not giving it back to you. And then we're going to probably see a lot of that this year.
And look, I'm all for that. I was very for the clock rules and speeding up the game. If it goes too fast, I'm willing to back off and say I was wrong. But you maybe have that Oppenheimer moment of what have I wrought here as a person who's in favor of this. But I do think that eventually coaches and teams adapt to those things and they'll figure them out. But I do think Nick Saban's got to be thrilled about it in the long run because he wanted the clock to kind of be a factor in the games where it wasn't anymore before. And even though he's made the adjustment, he can always adjust back. But yeah, I do think that there was, I know this sounds, I'm in the minority here. I thought there was too much offense in games. I think that it was harder for games to be under control. So we'll see. But yeah, 1 week it was, especially when you can just hold the ball. It's not stopping after first downs. Those were bigger deals than you maybe even realized.
I just put 4 random games. Here are the number of plays run. And I just thought it was almost the hair on fire, but I'm not trying to get off my lawn type of guy here. 69 plays, 66 plays, 55 plays, 57 plays, 65 plays, 64 plays, 72 plays, and 54 plays. Those were the number of plays run. I don't know what the average was last year. I'm going to say it might have been that. I'm going to go back and look at a couple of those, but those were just 4 games that I picked out of Division I football or FBS football over the weekend, and the number of plays that were run. Again, don't overreact to it. And at the same time, let's see kind of how it goes. But if, like Craig said, if Baylor has their running game going like they did a couple of years ago, or someone else that does, you wonder if there's a chance that you really lower the amount of opportunities in a game. We'll see the trend, but not after just 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's upside to not having to spend 4 hours on a game. I know there's also people that just want to bleed every minute out of a Saturday they possibly can on college football, and they don't care if it's a 5.5-hour game. Like, they just want college football, period, on their TV sets. I'm a little bit in between. I don't want to have to sit at McLean Stadium for 5 hours because of constant interruptions. But I also know that part of those interruptions is not what's been changed. It's the media timeout. So, yes, the game's going to be quicker, but it's the actual game that's going to be quicker and not the all extracurricular, advertising and all those types of things. So, very small sample size. I saw some that, I guess don't need to, bleed out every minute of a Saturday. We're like, hey, it was kind of nice to just have like a 3-hour game and then move on. And then there were some that I saw that were like, yeah, the game, there was less game and there was as many commercials. That kind of sucks. I don't like that. I want the game to last as long as possible. So definitely need to see more, but I can see the good and the bad. And I think once I get this full weekend in front of me, I'll probably have a better idea of kind of how I feel about it. But it was noticeable for sure.
Paxton did bring this up about how it may affect Vegas on the points over under on something like that. So there's just kind of a look at the weekend. Hope you enjoyed it. I know most of you did, and it was nice to have the games on. It was interesting to watch Caleb Williams running around a little bit. San Jose State, by the way, had over 400 yards offense in that game, and USC still has some issues on defense. We'll see if they can tighten that up. And give San Jose State credit. They got a pretty good coaching staff. Now, also, this kind of a bombshell over the weekend. Remember last week, Phil Bennett? He will join us today, was on the show talking about Arizona State and Ray Anderson and the President Crow. Here's a tweet that Arizona State is going to self-impose. They have done this, a self-imposed 1-year postseason ban on its football program for the 2023 season. Has yet to hear from the NCAA regarding recruiting violations that occurred under Herm Edwards, and they also were having practices and never had recruits on campus when they weren't supposed to during the COVID time. But Phil Bennett said they had not yet seen their violations. So then they do this. Here's Ryan Leaf, and I thought about this, and I'm sure this will pick up steam. Ryan Leaf responded, if I'm a senior leadership of that Arizona State locker room, after hearing that blank today, we are not stepping foot on a competitive football field until AD Ray Anderson is gone. And those truly responsible are penalized, and not the guys actually on the field who did nothing wrong. In other words, they waited until the very last second to do this so that nobody basically has time to just walk up and go somewhere else and transfer in under these kind of circumstances.
Yeah, I just...
And Kenny Dillingham met with the media earlier, and we're going to see if we can try to play that audio for you. We'll get that to you, but not right now. Yeah. Let's discuss the story.
Yeah, this is, to me, just another strike in the corner of Ray Anderson, and that's just a really bad look for towards the player. Kenny Dillingham's trying to get this thing going in year one. There's so much that they just did wrong in all of this, and what does a bowl, like... You are, okay, the bowl ban means that, post all those, but you're punishing people who had nothing to do with it. Ray Anderson needs to be punished. He was there. He was the AD during those times. Herm Edwards is gone. That's why they need to reform what the NCAA does, because by the time they investigate all this stuff, you're punishing players who had little to nothing at all. None of the players that are on this roster were even these guys that were there on the illegal COVID
But that's
visits.
always been the case. And the NCAA has done a little bit more, at least being like seriously thinking through this like they used to. Didn't matter. They just someone would get like crucified as far as the
even
program.
more reason for Arizona State not to do this at all, because they did this to themselves, not the NCAA. To allow me to let the NCAA off the hook, but this would allow, if the NCAA moved faster, it wouldn't make Arizona State make decisions like this, which, again, have nothing to do with anybody who's on the current roster or coaching staff. Those people are all gone. So they've got to find out better ways to do things like this than we're going to take a bowl ban and punish a senior class that's also been there with them through some of these thin times. That just feels kind of harsh to me.
Well, I mean, the penalties are the penalties, and the NCAA had a lot of information that they'd acquired that details and lays out a lot of, what violations were occurring. And so there's no doubt that something was going on. I think that's, the most apparent and obvious thing. But to y'all's point, it didn't necessarily have to do with certainly not this head coach. Majority of this roster, most of the people involved were not involved in this in any way. And for it not to be the NCAA handing down the penalty and crushing their dreams when, they've said in so many ways, like, that's that was the goal, was just go make a bowl game. That'd be a successful first year for Kenny Dillingham. Now you can't even have that carrot to dangle. That's a tough deal, and as we'll hear from him, obviously very upset by this, but to go ahead and just, cut off your nose to spite your own face was just really surprising to see that, and that's where I do agree that Ray Anderson needs to, have a better explanation than the lack of explanation for why they decided to go ahead and make the first move here rather than just wait on a punishment and see what that entailed. It does seem like a pretty severe move to make when, let's say the NCAA would have come out at some point and said, yeah, you are going to get a bowl ban, but at least you have time to prepare for that. You don't just drop that in their laps days before their first game and crush their dreams before they even get started, because if the NCAA were to come back, it wouldn't pertain to this year. It would have, been involved in next year. You can go, okay, hey, yeah, next year we already know the deal. It's because of this. We can appeal it, do whatever. But to just have the school itself decide to do that days before the opening game is puzzling and just bizarre. I don't understand that. And I get the whole, like, cut it off at the knees, but if you think it's going to be bad and you're kind of trying to lessen the blow.
Like Michigan and Harbaugh? Yeah,
and I can understand that mentality, but at the same time, like, how bad are you expecting if you feel like you needed to do this so abruptly?
Well,
that's just that's the puzzling part as well.
If the NCAA had come down with a ruling, there was nothing Arizona State could do about the timing. They doing it, with the players now. Here is Kenny Dillingham. Thanks to Chris Karpman, who we've had on back when Arizona State, the questions were they going to join the Big 12? He's great at what he does, covering the ASU Sun Devils. Here is about a minute and a half or so, maybe less, with Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham.
Control us. I mean, I knew today would be shitty. I mean, they receive horrible news on a Tuesday practice in the morning before we meet for special teams. So to think that 18 and 22-year-olds are going to go out and have a good Tuesday practice is absolutely delusional. But I think the guys battled. The guys did the best they could do.
Was it emotional telling them that?
Oh, yeah. You have a whole bunch of seniors who compete, and they can't compete there anymore.
Can you know this was a possibility?
I was informed this morning at 6:30 a.m.
How did you find out?
I met with Ray Anderson and Gene Boyd.
Motivation is a huge part of coaching. Without that carrot to have, where do you go from there?
Just be the very best we can be every day. I mean, what I just told the team is nobody cares about your circumstance. In reality, most people in life would rather see other people fail so they don't have to work hard and to actually work hard enough to beat them. So everybody looks at this and like, oh, great, Arizona State's not going to be motivated anymore. That's a win. That's how the majority of the world thinks, is nobody wants to work hard to achieve success. They want to bring other people down lower than them, and they can do the exact same work ethic. So people are looking at us and they're satisfied. They're singing for joy. They're excited because they think there's no way Arizona State football is going to be able to keep their mindset to compete. And that's the challenge, is it's us versus us every day. Oh, it's not great, especially on a Tuesday for practice, but it is what it is. And like I told the guys, we can't control it. Like, you can't control it. Not one person in the country feels bad for us. Matter of fact, more people are happy about it. Because like I said, people love to see other people down. People feed off of it. It's the world we live in. And if we allow people to feed off of this circumstance for us, then that's on us. And it's my job to try to get our team and rally our team behind each other to go compete and go work at the highest level.
Yeah, he's not happy. Thank you to Chris Karpman, by the way, again, for allowing us to clear that audio. He is furious.
Yeah. He's wrong about one thing. I feel bad for him. But, I think it sucks for them. But kind of rooting for Arizona State to
you have to wonder
go 9-3 this year or something like that.
If Dillingham, when he took the job, if he was pretty much given any kind of inclination, he knew that there might be NCAA issues, but I don't think he had any clue that this would happen right before he starts his first year.
Well, yeah, of course he knew there was a possibility of NCAA violations given what he walked into, but I think it's very clear he's gobsmacked by the fact his own school delivered the punishment.
Yep.
That's the obvious thing. The school did it. So the people who hired him and who told him about a potential bowl ban went ahead and just did it themselves. I think he's obviously, being as professional as he can, and I'm sure that, he's got a lot of different ways he's going to try to manage this anger and use it as motivation, as is very clear by his comments there. But I think there's also part of it that he probably can't say too much, that's just very puzzled by the fact that his own athletic director was involved in this decision. And you wonder how much he had to say based on those comments. Doesn't seem like very much, if any at all. And, I would be surprised if any coach, especially a new one, and especially one who clearly saw that as a thing to strive for, this bowl eligibility, to have that ripped away again days before your first game is just bizarre. So I think that it will still serve as motivation, or they'll have an extra little layer of motivation, and let's see what they can do with it. I think he's it was an exciting hire this offseason, and certainly that program's in dire need of a shakeup. So he'll be the guy to lead the way. He just won't be able to do it in the postseason this year.
All right, we're going to skip over the Frank Harris quote. We'll do that a little bit later on, the how difficult the spring was for him when he had an infection in his knee after some tweaking of some meniscus or cartilage, whatever, and we'll have that for him. It's with Frank Harris and UTSA. Now, Pete Thamel, ESPN. Sources, after a weekend of conversations, continued momentum toward the ACC, adding Stanford, Cal, SMU. Officials are working on gathering the presidents and chancellors on a call, which is expected to take place at some point early this week. I think I saw with Nicole Auerbach, Chris Vanini had a story in The Athletic on Sunday about that meeting could come as early as like today or tomorrow.
I think it's
as far as the ACC. We'll see what happens there.
It's today, and I think the thing to be determined today is, do they get to a point where they can have a vote today? Which, if they can have a vote, it means they think it's going to pass. I guess
you don't take this a vote again if you don't have it locked up.
No.
Otherwise, it's just you might as well forget it if they don't pass it this time.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, this is the ultimate marriage of convenience when it comes to expansion. This one is the one that only makes sense in that, well, this conference needs to expand to keep pace with everybody else. These teams need a place to go, so let's do it. I don't think it's going to, kick up ratings or anything like that like it would for USC playing Michigan. But, if the schools have a place that they're going to be able to keep their advantages, then I hope so, and I hope for SMU that this works out for them and they can take that step.
You're in the minority, Paul, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that don't want SMU to get this ACC opportunity. There's a lot of people that would rather see Cal and Stanford flail in the Mountain West or the Conference USA or whatever American than see them get a lifeline from the ACC. I think it is pretty obvious what's going on, and it's something that we talked about at the end of last week. I think the ACC is setting itself up to not have to go make the realignment moves in a few years. They're just going ahead and doing it right now. And, we talked about that at the end of last week, that's the only thing that really makes too much sense of just why this, other than the fact that there's obviously a couple teams in need of a landing spot that need to know where they're going. But outside of that, why is this on the front right now? And especially when you know that a few million here and there is not necessarily going to solve all your Florida State, problems or Clemson problems or Miami problems or whoever's, anticipating on having an issue with the way the league's structured moving forward. I think that they know that and they realize that. I think they also know that what else are they going to do? What other possible option do they have to increase the money? They're not getting their deal reworked. Now, I know that they can get reworked, as Brett McMurphy, I believe, was the one that pointed out, if a certain number of teams leave, then that opens it up. But again, that's teams leaving to be able to open that up. So in the meantime, what can you do to increase money? you're not going to go land some big sponsor out of nowhere that all of a sudden is adding $10 million to everybody's pockets. You add teams, the pro rata adds money, and it's not life-changing money for any of these programs necessarily, but it is more than you were getting. And until they find a way out and until you find a better option, that's really all you can do. That's really all you can do is just add these teams to add a bit more money and hope that in the long run it ceases some of the agitation. But outside of that, I mean, you stay pat and everything else stays the same way it is, and then you eventually lose these teams, and maybe Cal's not available, or Stanford's not available at that point, or SMU's not available at that point. That's the only thing that really made sense and still makes sense with outside of just having a West Coast wing and all that, but really the money part of this and how it affects further realignment. I think this is just cutting it off the next problem at the pass, and that way you're already backfilled if and when those other teams decide to leave, a year from now or 5 years from now.
All right, now, one of the stories that was kind of smoking throughout the weekend was the possibility, and I never read the story. I just saw a couple of tweets from those who cover college football or really they weren't even those who cover college football as fans. I even had a couple reach out to me direct message about the Big 12 having conversations with Stanford and Cal. If that happens, start building Noah's Ark, period, because that means we're about to it's going to implode. The world's going to implode with Cal and Stanford. So that's my opinion. Brett McMurphy saying this in a tweet from over the weekend. Despite reports to the contrary, Big 12 has not had conversations with any of the Pac-4 schools, has no intention in engaging with those schools, multiple Big 12 sources told Action Network HQ. So there's that, and I can't imagine that's true. If it is, okay, that's one of the biggest, 360, no, it wouldn't be 360, 180 turnarounds when it comes to someone's emotions about being a part of a conference that they could basically just have to hold their nose and jump into it. Seems like that's been the story. So there's that with the Big 12, Stanford and Cal.
It came out of the San Francisco Chronicle that Stanford, and it felt like ACC, fuel additive a little bit. Let's see if we can get the ACC moving a little bit faster so they can get some clarity. Because to me, everything you've heard from the conference has changed in that, no, there's – we've talked to ADs, and you've heard from Brett Yormark when he did, is that no, as opposed to before when you asked him before they added the 4 schools they added, it was like, oh, yeah, we're always considering it and all that. Right now, it's been a pretty emphatic no, we are where we're going to be.
I mean, we've had multiple ADs come on here in the last couple of weeks and say that they're pretty much done. Now, I know that, well, you can't believe them because they were saying they were done last time and then they necessarily weren't. So, unfortunately, that's true. And unfortunately, that just fuels the fire when there really may be nothing to something, but just the people that love to talk about it, it fuels that and keeps the conversation going. I do think there are various elements at play here, including, leveraging and getting that story out there to force pressure onto the ACC to we better go grab these schools before they join the Big 12, which, like you said, is basically a snowball chance as hell in happening. I think that was very much a PR move, getting that out there. To me, the logical play still seems to be all of this smoke surrounding the ACC. And beyond that, I mean, obviously there's, Washington State and Oregon State that need to figure out their situation. But, I mean, I tend to believe this. I don't think Brett McMurphy at this point is still just throwing out junk. And he got accused of doing that by several people who turned out to be just the most wrong, particularly one guy with lots of charts in the world. And Brett McMurphy stayed the course and was right in the end. And so I do think that people get fed things. I do think he's one of those who gets fed things at times, and there's motivations and reasons behind that. But I just have a very hard time in believing that, no, the Big 12 does absolutely have massive interest in Cal and Stanford. I think this is spot on, and that's where my head's at as somebody who follows the Big 12 is, they are still, potentially open to teams, but the idea that it's, Cal and Stanford heating up, I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either one of them has any interest at all either. All right, we're going to break, come back with a comment from Dave Aranda today in the Baylor opening week media press conference, a thought about Blake Shapen as Baylor host G.J. Kinney and Texas State. I didn't know this until I was listening today that Dave Aranda played against G.J. Kinney when he was in college. And so there's that. G.J. Kinney, Texas State football coach, will join us today at 4:15. J.J. Joe, Phil Bennett, He'll be a part of the show today, too, at just after 5. Saw him at a high school game on Friday. His thoughts about Arizona State, because he's the one that brought up the fact that they will have some violations they just didn't know at the time and still don't really know what those violations might be via the NCAA. The chat room, thank you, Texas Buckeye 1953 for a $4 the super chat. We appreciate you. A lot of you have all of the topics that we've brought up, from the pace of play, the number of plays. Like Paxton goes, can anyone come back from 28-7 down now with the way the clock is running? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have. That's a great question. We'll have to look at that. Sam Hartman, Zachariah Branch, first full weekend coming up. Arizona State, all of that. And yes, more and more speculation and possible legitimacy when it comes to potential realignment. And oh, by the way, if it isn't enough, Wednesday, the College Football Playoff Committee will sit down, and it might be like a version of the movie Gangs of New York when it comes to who's trying to get what turf for the 12 teams starting the next time when they increase to 12 teams. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace. I went by there the other day, and I go to H-E-B, Walmart, Target, whatever it is, wherever I'm close enough when I realize I need something that's kind of a larger shopping type of a list. However, one of the things that I also do is go by Waco Custom Marketplace when it comes to their weekly specials. With tailgating starting this week, in fact, the game at McLean Stadium and elsewhere around the state of Texas and where you are, they have the following: 10 pounds of 3x1 frozen hamburger patties, $39.99. This is for the 10-pound package of hamburger patties. They're frozen. You can keep them that way. Put them on the grill for your tailgating. Smoked pork tenderloin, $4.50 a pound. Chicken wings, $1.99 a pound. And bone-in pork butt at just $1.85 a pound. On top of that, they have bacon-wrapped fillets, select, choice, and prime beef fillets available from $11.99, $10.99, $22.99, and $26.99 a pound. And of course, for a tailgate, brisket, select brisket at $3.75 a pound. Brian Bauer and the Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, with also charcoal, pellet fuel, and more, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
During the Make This the Summer event, save big on a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with $3,500 plus 2.9% for 72 months. Or a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with employee pricing for all plus 1.9% for 72 months. And an extra $1,000 rebate. Or if that's not enough, get a 2023 Jeep Compass 10% off MSRP. That's right, and no payments for 90 days on all offers. Find the Jeep that fits you at Allen Samuels in Waco.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Dave Aranda earlier today, all of college football coaches either today or tomorrow having their media sessions for the opening week of the season. We'll also try to get a couple of head coaches on this week from other schools. Plus, Dave Aranda will join us, of course, every other Monday on 365 Sports.
Yeah, it was good to hear him talking this morning and just to see some of the other quotes that were being put out there via the various other press conferences, and just exciting to see football back on the TV that actually matters. NFL preseason's fine, but you know that most of the time it's not even the guys who will normally play, and many of those guys are about to get cut by tomorrow. Hundreds of players will have been cut over the last 24 hours, and some of that's already started. But, to see actual real-life football, even though not many people got to watch the USC game, because of the Pac-12 network situation. It was still great to just be able to have that as a backdrop or a game that you were locked in on. And, man, I cannot freaking wait. It just feels good. It feels good that we're going to have some real-deal results and real-deal headlines to talk about, when it comes to the on-the-field action. I'm just over the moon that we're finally at this point.
All right, so Dave Aranda, a couple of notes. One, that Jarrell Boykins, who is scheduled coming out of spring to be their starter at defensive tackle, is out for this game against Texas State, and sounded like Dave Aranda mentioned he'd be out for a couple of different weeks. He didn't say that there's going to be truly a starter. Somebody will take the first snap. Maybe they'll both line up in the backfield the first time they're out there with Richard Reese and Dominic Richardson as far as what they do at running back. Is it kind of 1A, 1B, or just both the starters is also, and that's kind of, go with a hot hand.
I really don't think that's that big of a
It's
deal.
It's not a big deal. People love that stuff.
Yeah, people do. Apparently, they just love the guy being named the starter. But with this particular situation, I just don't think it's that big of a deal because they're co-starters. I think in my mind, and clearly in his mind after listening to him talk today.
All right, and then here's Dave Aranda. He also mentioned the offensive line, that it might be the most athletic group that Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos have ever had, and that includes, I guess, not just the time here at Baylor, but also when they were together at Brigham Young with two of the players on their offensive line, the Barrington brothers, both being on the starting offensive line. And then he was asked about Blake Shapen. We've heard all the right things throughout the offseason. The lights come on Saturday.
I'm proud of Blake. This mock game that we just had, he's there motivating guys. He's getting in guys' faces. He's loving them up afterwards. And these are things that you just didn't see, and things that were kind of outside the whole view of I'm sure how he saw himself, or, and so I think, going into last year, I know he wanted to be the starter. I don't know if there was a full comprehension of what that job entailed, of everything that came with it, and the responsibilities and the the weight that's carried and just all of it. And I think that's a major, major, major difference now, is that he's been on both sides of it now, you know? And so I think just his view of all of it is such that, you know, if things go well to start the game, I don't think the down's going to be very low. If things go really well or high to start the game, I don't think he's going to get too high. And I think he's going to stay kind of medium because he's seen it all, or seen a lot of it.
That's Dave Aranda from earlier today. Thanks, Jack McKenzie, who was there putting it up, the video for us on 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio. Garrett also for having that available too.
So just as I was talking about being excited and like seeing the real deal, this is what I'm talking about. We've heard all this stuff about Shapen, and it's great to hear that he's, you know, matured. He's realized some things, that he's improved his game on and off the field. But at this point, I don't know about y'all, I'm ready to see it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I want to see it. I want to see him out there and see, you know, if what's been said is true. And I know, you know, all the parts that he's talking about aren't going to be evident against Long Island in game number 1 of the year. Ideally, he's not going to play that much in this game after about halftime if things go, or excuse me, Texas State, things go the way they're supposed to. But you know what? The Bobcats are going to be scrappy, I think. I think they're going to have a little test at least early on. And I think that, you know, if you're G.J. Kinney and company, you're going to be aggressive with Blake Shapen. There's no reason not to be, and I'm just excited to see it because we've heard such good things, but, you know, actually going out there and doing it and knowing how big of a story the quarterback position is for this fan base and just the angst that entails and just the uncertainty of all of it and the decisions that have been made along the way to get to this point. Cannot wait to see what the new look Blake Shapen is like and how that affects this team on the field.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, with G.J. Kinney and also Texas State run, it's the hair on fire. It's and Aranda mentioned this. Remember when Art Briles constantly was tweaking the offense he had, and then one year he came out and like defensive coordinators like, what? Like receivers were lined past the hash marks, like all the way near the sideline. And that's what GJ's trying to do. He will join us. He has not yet made a decision or a call on his starting quarterback. What is it, Malik Hornsby and also T.J. Finley, 2 guys that have been at the Division I or FBS level. He'll join us today on that at 4:15. I asked him, I said, have you named the starter yet? He goes, no. And I looked up even online before I asked him that. He has not, but look forward to having GJ today on the show. Paul, anything from the depth chart or anything from Aranda in what you listened to if you did?
No, the depth chart, a little bit interesting to me along the offensive line about where guys actually wound up eventually, because in the spring it was just let's see who's better at there. But other than that, no. I do like that he says, I want my quarterback to get back to medium emotionally. Like that's the key for him is medium, where you're right where you need to be. Now, sometimes like nobody wants their quarterback low, obviously, but sometimes you need to get guys out of that. Like it's better for Blake to be medium because he's not, when he's keyed up, probably the best at it. That was the same for Max Duggan. When Max Duggan was able to get to this level, he took the next step, because when you watch Max Duggan early in his career, you'd have a drive where you're like, man, this guy's a gamer and a half. And then you watch him, you're like, man, he is really like in his feelings right now, and you need to get him out of it. So that was a curious thing to hear about Blake Shapen. Not curious, but interesting to think that he's the kind of quarterback who needs to be at medium, where there are some guys where you want him cranked up to 11 all the time. Like Brett Favre, when he was playing, you need that guy on full crazy man mode of let's just go make things happen, as opposed to this where some guys just do better here.
Yeah, I think it's, different quarterbacks, different personnel. You are who you are. You don't want to be fiery if you're not. You can't be fake with that. And you can't act like you're calm if you're like basically not trembling, but you're fired up inside. Be who you are. And if whatever Blake Shapen is, if it works, then that's who he needs to be. All right, also today, there is the Frank Harris quote. I saw this. Mike Craven wrote this story on Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. Frank Harris had knee surgery in the offseason. This is one of the quotes from Frank Harris, who has appeared on this show multiple times. The doctors told me if worse comes to worse, it won't end well for you, and you might lose your leg. I told the coaches that I was medically retiring from football. I didn't want to play no more. I wasn't even worried about football. I couldn't even walk. That is from Frank Harris, who's been a dynamic, unbelievable player for UTSA and also a great story in college football, where he was during the spring after he had an infection in his knee. And he will play, and he is good, but that's where he was at one particular point.
Yeah, I mean, infections can be scary, and I'm not surprised that it gets bad enough that, you do hear about the possibilities of just the horrific things that can happen, when an infection spreads and you can't control it. And in some cases, people lose limbs. So you didn't have much of an idea that that's how far it got. We've talked to Jeff Traylor a couple of times, and, he didn't give any indication that it got that serious, I don't believe. So, they kept pretty tight-lipped on that. But I'm just glad in the long run, no matter what, that he's okay and okay enough to even play is awesome. He's been around a long time, a really long time for even a college player at this stage, the magic of the COVID year. But, he should be good to go and one of the better players in college football this year. He'll put up a lot of big stats, but there is now an interesting backstory in addition to what was already an interesting backstory for him and the fact that he did deal with such major health issues. And just like I said, glad he's okay and glad we're going to be able to see him play football for a while longer.
So there we are with that one. And again, the story on Frank Harris. When we come back, we wrap up this 3 o'clock hour. Colt McCoy today, the great quarterback of the University of Texas, has been really a very good insurance policy for a lot of teams in the NFL. Came in one year as a backup up in Arlington to beat the Cowboys on, I think, a Sunday night game. He was cut today by the Arizona Cardinals. There's quarterback right now, based on the room, will be either Clayton Tune, a fifth-round pick from Houston, and I just went blank on who the leader is in the pack, the leader in the pack for them when it comes to the starting quarterback. But Colt McCoy, the great college player at UT, has been cut by the Arizona Cardinals.
Clayton Tune and Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs, yeah, who just got picked up a few days ago. I think he was picked up just a few days ago. Hey, Garrett, do you have the Jacksonville State note? Just a quick note, their debut, Jacksonville State, a great program who beat Florida State a couple of years ago, launched them into FBS. They beat UTEP in their first ever FBS game and Conference USA game. Congratulations to Jacksonville State.
Glad that my alma mater could be of help in building their emotions
and their rise up.
Yeah.
That's a cool story, though. That really, really is. All right, this is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. I went to a back doctor last week, and man, have I felt a lot better ever since. Sometimes you don't realize how much you might hurt until all of a sudden you don't. Whether it's because you go through some chiropractor or you go and get stretching or you work out and get stronger in that particular part of your body. But mine was the lower back. But actually, it was more than that. The lower back is not the problem. There's something that is like near my bursa sac that's just angry. So I went to see Dr. Ackley at one of our sponsors, Southwest Sports Medicine. And I had an injection, have had some prescription medicine, and I have never felt better, or at least I haven't felt this good with my back or with my hip since back in February. And all of it stems from what I was able to do is call Ideal MRI, get a copy of the MRI from a year ago. Dr. Ackley looked at it, sat down with me, showed me what he thought might be the issue so we could get rid of what are some of the complications. And I have felt very good. I still have to be careful. He asked me to push it, but I feel great. And thank you to Dr. Rob Maxey and Teresa at IdealMRI.com for reacting as quickly as they did to help me get the MRI to Dr. Ackley. Ideal MRI, $497 or less every single time in the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. And if you can't make it to Riverbend, DoorDash is available to bring it to you. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers, everybody, the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
All right, back to a possibility of the realignment, back to the possibility of expansion. In the story right now, this front burner is the Cal, Stanford, and SMU, and the possibility of the ACC, which we discussed a little bit earlier. Brett McMurphy put this out there earlier. One reason the ACC is considering those schools, ESPN's media rights deal with the ACC allows them to renegotiate, i.e. reduce revenue. If league drops below 15 members, with potential future departures of Florida State, Clemson, and possibly others, the ACC considering Power 5 schools now as opposed to G5s later to maintain required membership. On top of that, then Bob Thompson responded with this one. Well, I thought TV drove all the expansion decisions. If Brett's story is true, ESPN will be paying $72 million life insurance premium for the benefit of the ACC, clearly not in ESPN's interest. A sweet deal for the ACC.
Yeah, that's the good point. Like, it's not great that the conferences can just go, we'll add these schools, and now you have to pay because you put it in the contract. But ESPN also, they're not immune to making bad decisions. All of this is about, some bad decisions that the TV networks have made over the years. But yeah, that would seem to me a good plan to make sure that you are staying at 15 before some schools could potentially leave you, and doing it with Power 5 editions as opposed to G5 editions. So we'll see where that goes into the future, which also would make sense for what's going to be the 17-team league football season. That's going to look all wonky as well for a little while when they do that.
I mean, that's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it now so you don't have to do it later. That's the whole. That's the part that makes sense. Makes the whole thing make sense because not a lot of the rest of it does. Outside of just basically, cutting off the inevitable departures at the pass and going ahead and filling up so that when these schools that you basically now are just openly saying like you think that they're going to leave or anticipate that they will, okay, yeah, like I said earlier, there's a pretty good chance that Cal and Stanford aren't available the way they are now 5 years from now if that's when Florida State finally does what they plan on doing. Mm-hmm. So you went ahead and you grabbed them, and that way if Florida State does in fact do what they have talked about doing and others do as well, then you've already got the best teams that are available. So this is basically like if the Big 12 had added BYU and Cincinnati and Houston and UCF before Oklahoma and Texas left, knowing that Oklahoma and Texas were probably going to leave at some point. That's all this is, and that's why it makes some semblance of sense. It appears to really have a lot of momentum behind it, although this has kind of been going on for a few days. It appears that there's probably a little bit more of a ways to go, although with that situation tonight, the meeting tonight that's been reported, maybe we do have some clarity, but yeah, that's their tactic, and that makes sense from their end, from their standpoint. Go ahead and grab teams that will fill up those spots that might be open here in any time in the next few years. But as far as the Lifeline goes, I know Bob's way more plugged in than I am, but ESPN does have them under contract for a long time, so I know they're throwing them a lifeline, but they also, I think, have a vested interest in the ACC functioning. So, what would the alternative be? Kill the ACC to do what? Because, I hear all this stuff about the super conferences and, the money and all that, but, you still have to fill TV windows. So are we eliminating teams to have less games when the whole idea is to have more games and better games? And so, yeah, the whole Lifeline thing, I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, that would be like the Titanic shooting a missile at its, or intentionally running into the iceberg. Mm-hmm. So that wouldn't make any sense on ESPN's part. Let's see how it eventually shakes out, but there's certainly a lot of smoke around this right now.
I do think people would like to see, especially if you're ACC fans, ESPN put as much effort into that as they do the SEC. Now, granted, the SEC pays off a little bit more, obviously, because of, every year there's an SEC team, at least in the national championship game, if not winning it. And the ACC's been a little bit more scattershot when it comes to that, because there's only two of those teams that have done that.
But haven't they won the second most national titles, well below the SEC, with Florida State and Clemson?
Yeah, they have. But even so, I get why they do more than they.
I'm talking about in the last.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I think that you look at it though, like Florida State and Clemson leave, then that means that they can renegotiate, and not in the good way, for the ACC. They come and say, okay, well, those two schools are gone. You're below 15 teams now. Guess what? Now we can drop you down to $14 million a year, because that clause is in a contract. So I'm sure the door swings both ways, and we'll see if it works out for the ACC in the long term. And they may look, if they lose more than 4 of the schools that they have in the thing, they're going to have to add some G5s anyway. So maybe that's where Oregon State and Washington State come in down the line if Florida State and Clemson leave, so they can always kind of stay buoyed closer to 20 than they would be to 15,
in the
so
end,
they don't lose that.
In the end, Oregon, Washington, the 4 schools entering the Big 12, what happens with Cal and Stanford, all of these teams, remember, had an opportunity, the conference did, back when ESPN offered whatever it was, $30 million or so, and they said no. And in the end, are they all going to end up with more money? And are the networks going to end up spending less money? Is that a possibility, that Fox and ESPN will spend less money because they don't have to pay the Pac-12, and yet in the end, Oregon, Washington, with some of these being partial or a little bit less than 100%, all of them ended up making more money?
I don't know that they're all making more money. I don't think that's necessarily.
Stanford and Cal are going to get less.
Yeah,
they're taking a 30% share.
Partial shares, so that wouldn't be that.
And Oregon, Washington aren't getting a full share right off the top either.
Right. I think the appeal, though, for the Big Ten is that it's not what you get right away. If you're Oregon and Washington, it's what you get for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
You're eventually going to get a lot of money. You're eventually going to make a lot of appearances in big games on big networks and have exposure that you otherwise weren't ever guaranteed in this new Pac-12 arrangement that never came to fruition. So, it's not just about simply making more money, but, I think Oregon and Washington are certainly better off in this arrangement than they were in the Pac. Now, are they likely to win more titles this way? No, I think that the odds are a lot longer now, but certainly they're set up to be more stable than a lot of other teams that they were previously arranged with or competing with. Now they've separated themselves in some ways from like the Big 12, because they're now in the Big 10 and going to be making that Big 10 money. So they're in the top two. They're in a top two conference. Remains to be seen on Oregon State and Washington State. I don't know how this is working out in a more positive note for them. It's certainly not, unless there's a Big 12 lifeline coming, which there's not really an indication that that's going to be the case necessarily, especially when everybody's saying, involved, that's saying the opposite from the Big 12 perspective. But yeah, for Cal, adding in the travel costs and all that, I don't know that this is anything other than this is just what you have to do to maintain a certain status quo.
Be at the table.
Yeah, that's really it. SMU's not taking money simply to have a chair at the table. They might get like the leftover scraps thrown on their plate as we're watching everybody else, eat, chicken fingers or something, and they're sitting there getting like just nothing but skin, but they're fine with that because it's going to be worth it in the end just because they have a seat at the table. So yeah, there might be a couple situations where, a school that's moving is better off, but I think for the most part, it's a lot of collateral damage, and in some cases, unfortunately for perhaps Oregon State and Washington State taking a bit of a demotion here.
So Washington State, Oregon State, looking around for what happens with them. Probably have to wait. Well, I don't know. Gloria Nevarez, maybe she's having discussions with one of those or both those schools, Oregon State, Washington State, to try to get that thing locked in for them. And they have to take what is best right now because it's not going to be the ACC. It's not going to be the Big 12. So if Gloria Nevarez at the in Mountain West or if Mike Oresco in the American call one of them or both of them or want to sit down with them, they need to listen. They need to listen now. I know that. I'm saying that. They have to listen because there really is no other alternative for them.
Well, look, if there's nothing as permanent as we've seen. Look, to give the TCU example, they've been in a bunch of conferences, so nothing's permanent. We know that. So 5 years from now, if the ACC needs some more teams, I'm sure Oregon and Washington State, Oregon State and Washington State will be two of the first that they call because they would have been, Power 5 teams pretty recently and just because of their circumstances got left out in the cold.
Yeah, I think it sucks, and we'll see. We need finalization before saying that, reading them their last rites or, trying to put too much of a concrete summary on things because it's a fluid situation at the moment. And for all we know, we might be pointing and laughing at SMU again here in the next 24 hours, There's a vote tonight, apparently, reportedly, but that doesn't guarantee anything. Or not, we could wake up tomorrow or later on tonight and, the ponies are back in the dance. And, obviously there's a lot of other teams involved as well. But, yeah, I think Oregon State and Washington State have pretty clearly been trying to look out and do whatever they can and exploring every option that they can with a little help from, advisors and at Oliver Luck and just trying to figure out the best situation. Ideally for them, it would be the Big 12 or something along those lines, but that doesn't appear to be in the cards. And yeah, I think that they would both like to have some final, some finality to those decisions as well. So hopefully a lot of that's coming for everybody that's out there kind of dangling right now here in the next couple days or the next week, and we can kind of put that part to bed and see what's next.
Michigan offensive coordinator Sharon Moore will be suspended for their opening game, also a part of the same violation of NCAA rules that also led to Jim Harbaugh's punishment.
And he'll be the head coach in the third game.
Yeah, they rotated. They're putting all three up. Didn't you tell me they had a graphic up?
So yeah.
Here's game one's head coach. Here's game two's head coach.
Game two against UNLV, they're rotating Jay Harbaugh and Mike Hart. They're going to have two different head coaches, one for the first half and one for the second half. So you can tell how seriously they're taking that one.
Yeah, I guess it's cool to give everybody an opportunity, so to speak, of being able to run the show. But yeah, that's a Jim Harbaugh way of doing things. I feel like just kind of odd and different than probably the way some others would have handled it. But thanks to their schedule, I don't think anybody's breaking too much of a sweat on the end result, no matter who's, coaching, calling plays, or manning the sidelines for the Wolverines early on. I will say about the conferences and all of that, not to be, flippant in any way about, these end results. It would be nice to, I think everybody would love to just know, because we knew what it was like for months and months and months when there was just that Big 12 talk constantly. Mm-hmm. And especially with the season starting, the last thing I want to be talking about is realignment questions. I mean, I know that's going to be a part of it moving forward, especially because this is the last year for a lot of different teams in their current setups. But just for Oregon State's sake, I just hope that they can focus on football and not have week 6 of are we in the American next year? Are we in the Mountain? We still don't know. I think we'll know something surely far before then. But man, the wait I know has got to be killer for those fans. And as Kyle Whittingham from Utah said, I don't know if y'all saw his comments a few days ago, but he's not even. Yep. He's not even trying to dip his toes into the Big 12, really. He's already predicting they're going to be, changing it up again in 5 years. Yep. So all this stuff we're talking about with who lands where in the ACC and who lands where in the Mountain West, I think why the Big 12's deal was such a big deal, even though Kyle Whittingham, I guess, disagrees somewhat, is because it does seem a little more rock solid, whereas the ACC's very much feels like, let's patch this hole, and we know it's probably going to leak again in about a year, but we'll deal with that when the time comes. It's not, a rock-solid patch, and I feel like there is sort of that feeling around a lot of these moves right now, like this is a temporary thing, but how temporary are all of these moves is the big question. I think in Kyle Whittingham's case, I'd probably err on the side of batten down the hatches for the Big 12, buddy, because I don't think that necessarily there's a Big 10 life raft coming your way in the very near future. And so that's one that you probably just want to embrace that. I think that would be better for Utah in the long run, but, everybody's got their own opinions.
Dude is grizzled, though.
No,
so he's not going to.
I would love to play for him.
Yeah, sure.
I love the style of how Utah plays football. It can be open on offense, but for the most part, it is a battering ram. And I love the way they play, and they play so damn hard on defense.
Kyle Whittingham's a guy to me, if he got caught in some kind of time vortex and sucked it back into 1922 football, he wouldn't try to get home. The movie would be over. It's he got sucked into 1922, and they'd be like, yeah, I'm staying here. Yeah. I'm good. It's just, this is what I want.
Smoking cigs and wearing.
These guys are tough. Yeah. But yeah, I think he would do well there. But yeah, you do have to embrace your present a little bit more than that. But again, I don't think he's a guy who's, prone to fanciful whimsy when it comes to the future.
Here's the Kyle Whittingham quote for somebody on the chat room that's disagreeing with what we were talking about. Well, first of all, you use the word permanently. All I can say is far from that. I think in 2 or 3, maybe 5 years at the outside, my page keeps jumping, everything is going to change again. And so this might just be a quick couple of years of the game returning, and then everything is blown up again, and people go their separate ways. That's the quote from Whittingham on the Big 12 and moving forward into the conference. So there's that.
So
from
what's
Utah
the disagreement?
From the chat room, just saying that he did not say that. You guys are slandering him. Absolutely, I just read the quote.
We just told you we love the guy.
And we do love him, the way the style. I just like him in particular with what he's done an incredible job with Utah, winning back-to-back Pac-12 titles. All right, when we come back, G.J. Kinney, head coach at Texas State. They open up Saturday evening at McLean Stadium against Baylor. G.J. Kinney from the Bobcats is next.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
It's another time to speak with Samantha Duvall from TexasBeefHouse.com, handles the marketing, and someone that you will talk to a lot when you do call for the great product of the Texas-raised Wagyu beef. It's college football season, tailgating, it's a big deal. People love to put beef and pork and chicken, etc., on the grill. Let me know what you have.
We've got everything. If you've got a morning game, you can get our breakfast sausage or our bacon. You can tailgate with some breakfast tacos. If you've got an afternoon or evening game, we of course got our hamburger patties. They're half-pound patties, 4 patties to a package, and we even have jalapeno and cheese patties. They're amazing. They'll blow your mind. Just that extra flavor, not too spicy. They have a high heat cheese so they don't melt on the grill, and our patties don't shrink up on the grill either. Anytime you order, use our code SICK'EM10 to get 10% off your order of $100 or more.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. That's Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
He is the head coach at Texas State. They play Saturday in Waco, McLean Stadium, against Dave Aranda and Baylor. G.J. Kinney, Texas State head coach, with Paul Catalina, Craig, and David Smoak. G.J., young man, and I always will refer to you as young man. Thanks for your time. How are you, where are you on the timeline of where you need to be from when you took over to the August workouts to a game week?
Yeah, I think, these guys, obviously we recruited them and did the summer workouts with them. Their little vacation, came back for fall camp, had a good fall camp, and I think now they're probably ready to hit someone besides their teammates.
You have a team that is loaded with transfers, guys that are new. You're new. What are the unique challenges of bringing together a team in a short amount of time, relatively from the time you got the job to the time you kick off, and building that chemistry, a bunch of guys who have not been at the same place together and are trying to figure each other out?
Yeah, I think the chemistry part has gone really well. I think guys are, playing for each other, and they're starting to, figure that out. It's just, we had that first fall practice, and it was like, man, these these guys have never practiced. A lot of these guys have never even practiced with us before. So it was a situation where we had to, teach them how we practice, and then obviously you had to teach them the scheme and all that kind of stuff. So, it is a unique challenge going into week one. Obviously, playing an opponent like Baylor is probably not ideal, but it's it is what it is, and our coaches have done a great job, and our players are up for the challenge.
What's the balance of excitement, nervousness, and whatever other emotions you have, getting ready to go and coach your first game with this program, and also knowing, hey, GJ, football's back after a very long wait?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Got some week 0 action last weekend, got to watch some Saturday night games, and that was college football's back. That's always fun. I'm excited. I'm not necessarily excited yet. I'm not a guy that gets overly, up or down, but, I think these guys are ready to go. I think we have to have another really good week of practice. And because for us, every practice, every meeting is so valuable for us right now. I think these guys are excited, and they're excited to play a Big 12 team and a Big 12 opponent and a Big 12 stadium. Because everyone knows what Baylor has this year. They're going to be really good.
So your brother's on the Baylor team. How unique is that?
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a situation where you get the job and you look, hey, we played Baylor week 1. Obviously my dad going there, my sister graduated from there. Obviously out of respect for Landry and Coach Aranda and really just, the whole Baylor organization. Me and Landry really haven't talked in a while, really since fall camp started. Maybe like, hey, everything good? One of those type deals. So, it'd be good to see him out there on game day and shake his hand before and after. And I know he loves Baylor and loves everything they're doing over there.
Then you could talk again like normal people. That'd be great.
Yeah, exactly.
when you're not competing. You also, with transfers, also comes experience, maybe a little bit more maturity. I know that's not an easy blanket statement to throw across the board, but have you found that this is a team, because you have a lot of seniors and juniors that are more mature and able to take things a little bit faster?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I think that was, really the plan coming into year one. Obviously, we won't do this again next year. Since I've gotten the job, I've talked about recruiting Tech High School, and that's what we're going to do. And we've already got, a bunch of commits already for this next class. But, I just thought for us, when I got the job, you lost a lot of guys to graduation. You lost a lot of key quality players to the portal that ended up leaving before, really I was announced. So, I think, I do not enjoy losing. So I wanted to get as many good players as possible and really get those momentum going and get some quality players in here. And I think with the type of scheme we run on offense and defense, we were able to, and really Texas State, the location, all that, you're able to attract some really good players. And you, like you said, some experienced players as well. That was kind of one thing I learned last year when I was at UIW and, previously at UCF, when this portal can be a little challenging. And for me, I'm always starting with, hey, can I find someone with production? Is that FCS, FBS, whatever? Has he played before? And that's really where we started. And we're able to get some guys that have played a lot of meaningful snaps in some big time games. So I think that's always a positive.
GJ, you had one of the country's best offenses at any level in college football last year, the top offense, the FBS, FCS level. You've been a lot of different places, and I'd imagine had a lot of different influences. How would you best describe, the GJ Kinney, Texas State-led offense, and what were maybe some of the big, moments or influences along the way that helped develop that to what it's becoming now?
Yeah, I think I get a lot of credit. I think we have a really good staff as well, and they do a really good job. Mac Liflitz, our OC, and Jordan Shoemaker, our O-line coach, run game coordinator, Will Bryan, Eric Stevens, Craig Stutzman. We got some really good coaches, and we got Lindsey Scott now on the staff over here. That was my quarterback last year at UIW. So got a bunch of really good coaches. But I think for me, really starts obviously with my dad and when he got that job at Canton, we're going over there and running a spread offense. That was kind of my first introduction to it. And then going to play for Jeff, learning kind of a new spread, Jeff Traylor, and now at UTSA. And then, I played for Gus Malzahn, Mike Norvell, Chad Morris. And then you go to the NFL with Chip Kelly and Ryan Day was with me in 15 and a bunch of really good coaches. Doug Peterson, back when we coached in 2019, I was on his staff. So just a bunch of really good coaches that I probably just picked up some stuff here and there from all of them. And then even coaches that, didn't even teach me. A lot of the stuff that we do on offense right now is when I went back to UCF in 2021 with Gus. Dylan Gabriel was our quarterback, and Josh Heupel had been the head coach at UCF previously. And so Gus told me, hey, get in there and figure out what Dylan is comfortable with, and we're going to run some of that stuff. So I went in there with Dylan and Daryl Wyatt and sat in there and learned a lot of this vertical choice, wide split stuff, and really fell in love with it. And thought, hey, if I ever get the opportunity to really do this is what we're going to do. And me and Coach Leftwich last year kind of sat down and combined a lot of the stuff that they had done previously at UIW and the stuff that I wanted to do offensively with the wide splits and a lot of Gus's run game, and kind of built something that we were really proud of last year and hope to continue here at Texas State.
How often do the names you just mentioned that have been a part of your career and you with them and vice versa, playing or coaching with them, how often do you guys trade texts? Do you have time for that once the season begins?
Yeah, I would say, off season more with the NFL guys. And then, I still speak with Gus quite often, Coach Traylor quite often. Obviously, my dad, Chad Morris, I've talked to him a couple of times. Todd Graham, talked to him a couple of times. So, yeah, Norvell, more about recruiting probably. So, we still keep in touch. I would say I talk to Jeff and Gus the most, though.
All right. You mentioned how wide open you are, and a lot of times people think of that just as hair on fire, and it is, but the running game is critical, spreading the wide receivers as far as you can. I remember when Browse did that about a decade ago. But now you have this new clock. Did you pay much attention? It doesn't seem like there are as many plays in a game based on the new rules. Is that something that you've kind of had any focus on?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I wasn't necessarily a fan of that, being an offensive guy, but at the same time, it is what it is, and it's the rule. And I think you saw a little bit of the data from week one, but I think we'll get some more information. And I don't think it'll affect things too much, but you never know.
You guys run a lot of plays anyway, so is it just maybe about adjusting right now at the end of halves what you might have been used to?
Yeah. I think I would say so. Like I said, I think the more data we get, the more games you kind of play under this new clock management deal and clock rules, that you'll get a better feel for it. Not too different from like an NFL either with the way the clock goes. So we'll get some more information and go with it.
So, GJ, obviously Baylor had some changes this year on defense and, a couple of different coaching staff changes as well, but particularly the shift to Matthew Powledge from last year and bringing him back into the fold. How does that kind of change things? You go watch Oregon tape, you watch old Baylor tape, I would imagine as well, but just kind of what do you see in general when you look at this Baylor team that's very much trying to, flip the script from a year ago?
Yeah, I think you watch a little bit of everything. It's always one of the first game. I've been part of staff that hardly watch anything because you don't want to, get too schemy for a team. You don't really know what they're going to do. And then I've been part of staffs where you're watching, 6 years worth of tape and you're going out there and you don't really know what they're going to do still at the end of it. So I think for us, obviously we've exhausted the tape and done as much research as possible. But I think for us, with so many new guys, is really focusing on our execution and giving them, the adequate looks. But I think it's more about us than kind of what is being presented.
You played the quarterback position. Would you rather know now if you were the starter or not? Because I traded a text with you earlier. You have some tremendous talent in that quarterback room, and you haven't yet made that decision. Is that just playing a little bit of games, or is you just don't know?
I think probably a little bit of both. We'll probably tell those guys before we play. But those guys will get the reps that they need throughout the week to go out there and perform at a high level and kind of see what happens and see who goes out there. I think for us, it's just there's so much newness, and year one, you want to make sure you got the right guy.
Well, they're both pretty different, though, right? In what their skill sets are.
Yeah, well, way different.
So is that like you see what your offense can maybe do a little bit more of before you can throttle down on who it is?
Yeah, I think so. I think figure out what we're good at, and kind of go out there and obviously Malik has a certain skill set and TJ has a certain skill set, and we know what those guys are good at. We feel like we have a pretty good idea of that. So it'll be something that, I think especially early on teams are going to have to prepare for, is really two different styles of offenses.
GJ, I know you got other things to do besides talking to us. We always appreciate it. Dave Aranda mentioned that he played against you. Is that right? When he was a player?
No, he was a coach.
Oh.
I believe he's referring to the Hawaii Bowl in 2010.
Okay.
He was the DC at Hawaii when I was the quarterback at Tulsa.
So what about and Craig mentioned they've made changes, Matthew Pallage, but just what your thoughts are on what Dave Aranda has accomplished and the kind of coach he is?
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Coach Aranda, and, our receiver coach, Craig Stutzman, knows him very well, and they're family friends. They work together, and I got a lot of respect for Coach and just really the way he runs the program and the way he carries himself and how intentional he is. I got my brother's on the team, so it's one of those situations where he tells, obviously before we played him, but it's one of those situations like, hey, this is, this guy's really, he treats me really well, all that kind of stuff. And, from my brother to say that means a lot. And I know he treats him very well. So, just have a lot of respect for Coach and the way he runs his programs and the success that he had, obviously already at Baylor.
Last thing, you coached, you would mention Gus Malzahn at UCF, and they're moving to the Big 12 effective this year, and they seem to be pretty much ready for it, not just completely pumped for it as well. Your thoughts about them moving into a Power 5? It seems like they could be ready for this.
You stole a question there, UCF. I like that. That was good. I'm a huge fan of what those guys do over there. And I think for the people in the Big 12 and all that are kind of what UCF's about. Gus has coached in the SEC for so long. So when we got to UCF, he kind of had that same mindset of recruiting like the SEC, and we were able to get a bunch of really good players, and there were some really good players already on the roster. And you're in Florida, so you're able to recruit your state very hard. And I think them going to the Big 12, having a year now to recruit, saying, hey, you're going to play in the Big 12, really helped those guys, really boosted recruiting, and I think their quarterbacks super talented. I think that running back room is really, really talented. I think they're going to be able to make some noise, and he'll keep recruiting at a high level, I think UCF is going to be a big time player in the Big 12 this year.
All right, buddy. Thank you for your time, GJ. Always remember Canton Gilmer at Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium when you guys shocked the world, and yet it really wasn't an upset because you were that good. Thanks for your time. Good luck. We'll see you this weekend.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. GJ Kinney, head football coach at Texas State, seems to be, and he's been playing, he's been around for a while, but he seems to be more mature than even the amount of time he's been a head coach.
Yeah, you try to age him about 10 years, though, thinking he played with Aranda. He's not quite that old just yet, but no, did y'all blink at all when he was naming all the people that he's worked beside?
Nope.
It's like the all-star cat. Who would you want to work with offensively in football today to make you as good as possible? And I think he named, if there was a top 10, 9 of the top 10 guys that you would want to have worked with.
And then you have a Super Bowl winning coach in Peterson, right?
Chip Kelly.
Gus
Malzahn. Yeah, he went on and on and on.
Jeff Traylor, we know, is brilliant at what he does.
Yeah, Josh Heupel. And, I mean, again, he named just about everybody that you would want to mention if you're talking about learning from top offensive minds and just football in general right now. So, yeah, he's a guy who already had, football talent, got raised in a football house, played in the NFL level. He's got to dabble there for a little while. And as he mentioned, got to learn some things in that level. And then, has quickly risen through the college ranks, had the top offense in FCS and FBS last year and at Incarnate Word. And that, propelled him to this Texas State job, which I think is an attractive place. It's just that they've had no buy-in. They've had very little commitment. And I think they're finally, the school itself is doing that, and hiring him was one of those moves to show that. And I think they're going to do really well with him. I think that he's the guy, when you talk about, the Big 12's future, that's a guy who in a year or two you could be hearing him, being brought up as a potential candidate for, another, jumping up and eventually being a guy who finds himself in the Big 12 or the SEC or whatever as a head coach. Got to take care of business in San Marcos. They haven't even played a game just yet, but right. They went super heavy in the portal. They got some good players, coming back. And so I'm thinking that, this is going to be a Baylor win on Saturday, but I don't think that they can just show up and expect that it's going to be a lopsided final score. I think that there's going to be, plenty on Dave Aranda's plate and Matthew Powell's plate and others as well that they're preparing for this Saturday, because I don't doubt for a second that the Bobcats may not be able to match the talent, but they're going to come in with some fun things up their sleeve for sure.
Yeah, I think for sure that it's going to be wild. I think the best thing that Baylor has going for them that this is a completely new coaching staff and team. I mean, there's not.
Yep.
Yeah.
The guys they saw the last time they played Texas State, there's maybe 4 or 5 of those that they would even remember, and some of those guys might even really played when the last time they played them. If you look at the roster, not the depth chart, the roster, I mean, 30 transfers.
No, it's
more.
maybe more than that.
Yeah, it's like 50 actually, yeah. Paul. It's like over 50 transfers. So
I like his attitude, his personality. I can see where you'd want to play for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's flipped over half the roster, and that in of itself though is the other side of that is you don't know really anything. You're like, none of these guys have played together hardly. It's a new system. It's brand new coaches. It's all that. So, as much as he's digging in at what Matthew Powers did last year, or also just worrying about themselves, as he said, more than anything, I think Baylor's got to do that as well, because they'll certainly have some tricks ready to throw out there. But, yeah, it'll be an interesting little chess match between, that style of offense and what Aranda and Powers are trying to do with a defense that, quite frankly, if there's a concern, it's the secondary. And here you are lining up against an offense that is absolutely going to want to throw it around. So that'll be a nice challenge in week number 1.
Appreciate G.J. Kenny. Thank you to Texas State for giving us access to him. When we come back, more to get to. I just did receive, we were going to have Tanner Mordecai, Wisconsin quarterback, on in a recorded interview, but he got called into an offensive coaches meeting, which is much more important than an interview. But there is still a chance we get him today, sometime in the 5 o'clock hour, trading back and forth with Wisconsin Media Relations. When we come back, J.J. Joe's around the corner, but we're not done. What is the game in the Big 12 this weekend that interests you the most, or maybe just the single game overall? Some have mentioned Northern Iowa against Iowa, among some others that are outside the Big 12. We'll also show you the Big 12 schedule, all 14 teams. And this is 365 Sports, and thank you for your time.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on, and the people that I've counted on multiple occasions for my vehicle, getting it all fixed up. I didn't buy it there originally, but did after a couple of wreck situations. Take it on over to the good folks over at Richard Carr, and they got it to back in brand new condition, and I've had no problems ever since getting my vehicle back. I appreciate Donnie and all the good folks over there for the way that they helped set up the appointment and the expedient nature in which they got my vehicle back to me. That was just part of the customer service aspect of what they do over at Richard Carr, and customer service is a big part of what they do. Right now, though, over at the dealership, it's a bit of a mess out front. Highway 6 is all torn up as they're doing construction, so since it's a little more difficult to get over to them, although not impossible, they want to make it worth your while, and that's why they've got a bunch of great deals on new Buick GMCs and Cadillacs. Right now, most 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s are discounted thousands, and qualified buyers can finance for 0.9% financing. Dozens of Sierras on the lot. They have the inventory, they have the price, they have the financing to get you in one of those new GMC Sierras today. They've also got the #1 ranked overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers with the Buick lineup. Buick offering a luxury SUV without the luxury price right now. The Buick Encore GX 2023. You can save $3,250 plus qualified buyers get 1.9% financing and no payments until 2024. So there's just a couple of the new offerings. They've also got dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock under $25,000 if you're looking to go the pre-owned route. And if you're not even looking to buy, just looking to make sure your truck, car, SUV remains in tip-top shape or gets something fixed up that it needs to get fixed, well, their award-winning customer service department is also standing by to keep you on the road. And they are there to service your car or truck and get it back into reliable shape so that you don't have to worry about your peace of mind when riding in your vehicle, which is such an important thing. For 24 years in Central Texas, they built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bar, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
.365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
All right, a couple of things. One on the ACC, another one on a couple of super chats. We've had 3 of them today, and then also we'll look at the Big 12 schedule. Craig, real quick update on the ACC and the meeting that was supposed to be tonight.
Yeah, there will be no meeting tonight, and it's not for the reason of like they don't have the votes, and so they're not going to vote because they don't have the votes. Actually, it's because there was an active shooter or an armed and dangerous person on the campus of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Earlier today, there was an all clear that was given out just a few minutes ago, but because of the situation at North Carolina, out of respect for North Carolina, they are postponing the meeting tonight. So that is the latest from the ACC. So if you were one of those schools ramping up your hopes for big news tonight or, big news coming out of the meeting tonight, that will have to wait at least a little while longer, as is such often the case with realignment stuff because of what went down at North Carolina. And obviously that is far more important than, a meeting that can be easily rescheduled. But students were told to shelter in place around 1 p.m. There was a suspect at large, and police were looking for a person of interest, and it told everybody to basically, stay away. So I guess they cleared up that situation, and
they got him.
And so that's all taken care of.
All right, Craig, thank you for that update. We mentioned Texas Buckeye 1953 $4 super chat with starting off the show. Kim Coulter, $4.99. Everyone needs to watch Paul's new show, which debuted today. Every weekday at 1 until 2. A little bit offset of what we do, but a lot of college football. Every weekday at 1. Chris Allman, who is, he's in investments. We've known him. And he was a part of it, mortgages. Also is a refreshing and a star, and he's also a huge sports fan. So that's every weekday at 1 o'clock. Chris Allman.
Yeah, Angel.
That was
his wrestling.
Right.
We'll get into that on
wrestling name.
We'll get it out on Wednesday when he's back. So.
Also, Tanner Mordecai, that is now confirmed for 5:30. And then Charles Barkley, complete overreaction to his Kyle Whittingham's comments. He is referring to anyone, not just Utah.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah,
Charles.
I don't think we were really all that crazy, as far as I don't know. I don't think we really went off on him or anything. I think we just brought up the fact that, he said himself that he doesn't think the current situation is going to remain as is for too long. And I just think it would be great if, they just embrace the Big 12. And I think Big 12 fans would love to see, Kyle Whittingham talk about how great it is. And so I just saw that there were some people who I guess took that comment as, it being less than enthusiastic, or maybe that's the gist that the vibe they got from just kind of maybe some of the initial interactions with Utah fans. I've seen plenty though that are excited now about the Big 12 and all that. But yeah, I don't think that there's been any overreaction to those comments. We kind of just mentioned them and moved on. And it's been a couple, I guess, people in the chat that are like dwelling on it, but we're not like knocking him or saying anything bad. That's just, I don't know. There's really nothing to that, guys.
Yep. All right, so there is that. Now, this week, the Big 12. 14 teams. Remember, here's how it all starts. On Thursday, UCF at home against Kent State. And then also KU on Friday at home against Missouri State. And then a large chunk of games on Saturday, including the one that will have a lot of eyeballs on Fox. TCU hosts Dion in Colorado. Don't have any idea what to expect in that game.
A TCU
with
win.
Colorado, but most likely, yes, they're favored by 3 touchdowns. Also, Oklahoma at home against Arkansas State. Iowa State, Northern Iowa, which is, who knows, with Iowa State having, but Northern Iowa was beating them straight up before. Cincinnati, Eastern Kentucky. You have Texas at home at 2:30. That game is on Fox, the Big Fox at 2:30 against Rice. Kansas State and Southeast Missouri. That game in Manhattan on Saturday evening. More to come. Oklahoma State with a team that's trying to turn around from last year. Central Arkansas, new quarterback. Houston, UTSA. Looking forward to that one. That game, of course, in Houston. Baylor at home against Texas State will be there for that. Texas Tech at Wyoming. Penn State, West Virginia. That started that tough early schedule for West Virginia. And then Sam Houston, their first year as an FBS, against Brigham Young, that game in Provo.
Just so many daggum games, man. Used to be able to just fly through the schedule, it felt like, and there's only, 4 extra games, but it just seems like a lot more for some reason. And that's going to be the way of these, these new conferences. You're going to have like 16 teams. It's going to take you a 2-hour show to get through every game preview. But hey, that's one of the trade-offs. And so I think looking at that schedule, it should be a pretty successful first week for Big 12 schools. Although there are a couple games that you wonder about, in particular West Virginia, Penn State. That's not one where you really have a great deal of confidence in the Mountaineers, but I do know there's a lot of West Virginia folks that think they'll be better, including their head coach, than given credit for or expected. And they will certainly need to be for his sake, because that is a tough start to the schedule. And you just wonder, with just sort of the warmth of that seat and just the feeling around there of how important that early part of the season, that first month, is going to be for that program when it comes to bowl eligibility and just the overall results and just the way he's viewed and all that kind of jazz. So that's a huge first game that'll be really crucial for them to look good, but could be massive if they could somehow pull the unforeseen upset. But a lot would have to happen for that. So that's a really interesting game. And then also UTSA and Houston. That's a dangerous one for Dana Holgorsen and the Cougars. And that's a team in UTSA that I don't think a lot of people love having on the non-conference schedule, but that'll certainly get you ready for the regular season and the conference slate. And so that ought to be a nice little fight between those two. So, yeah, those are the two games that really jump off. And I know, next week it'll ramp up even further, and we'll have, some other big matchups. But I think for the most part, the conference should handle its business. There are a couple games, though, that could swing a different way.
When we come back, he wrote something about Blake Shapen and the Baylor offense in the premium section of SicEm365.com. J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback and radio color analyst, is next on 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. I don't have the specific information from Ted Teague, the general manager and CEO, but I do know this. They are ramping up what you want when it comes to buying a new vehicle on their lot in the location of Loop 340 and also east of 84 in Waco. Labor Day around the corner. So that allows them and that gives them the opportunity to offer really good discounts and also values on what they have when it comes to their cars, SUVs and trucks, Ram trucks, the Jeep Wagoneer, and the it's a beautiful, beautiful car, along with what they have with the Grand Cherokee and more. And then on top of that, if you want, there's also a great selection of pre-owned cars. They have a fantastic service department and fantastic sales reps that are there for you. They call them client managers. And AJ's the one that helped me buy a car back in 2020. Ted Teague, the general manager. It's Labor Day weekend coming up, and they have amazing opportunities for you if you just call them or go by Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak.
The Butcher Shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
This segment with former Baylor quarterback and Baylor radio analyst J.J. Joe is sponsored by Alliance Bank Central Texas, where customers have confidence that their financial needs are in good hands with 2 locations in Waco.
Every Monday at 4:45, J.J. Joe drops in. He wrote a piece that's on 365 or Sikkim365.com in the premium section. And J.J., it's game week. What is the first week like, no matter if you're someone who has not had many starts at quarterback or someone who's a seasoned veteran?
You know, it's like getting ready for the race when you're in your neighborhood and you guys always would line up and who's the fastest. It's that first game, a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiousness, and a lot of anticipation because you've been hitting each other and, just going against your teammates for the last month. And it's just great to, get prepared for another season. You got fans in the stands. So it's a lot of anxiousness, and it's interesting because this year we have a lot of new faces, and sometimes you just don't know how they're going to perform until those lights come on, and they try to simulate it with scrimmages and all that, but nothing like Saturday afternoon. Hopefully a Saturday evening most of the time during September out there on the gridiron.
How will you know that Blake Shapen has taken a step forward after game one?
I don't. It just really depends on how this game goes. GJ is in his first year out there at Texas State, and they'll be amped up, but you figure they'll have a little bit of a transition period, just getting used to him. So you hope that helps, Baylor and works in our favor. But for Blake, really, it's the first game. I think is really just him getting his feet back under him and doing the small things, right? Just leading the team, taking what's there, making sure that, his team, which should be superior, doesn't mean you win, to Texas State, that you go out and get the W and you play a clean game. So I don't think this game, outside of, just hopefully keeping him healthy and having him maybe get a little connection with those receivers, would be good to see that. But as I mentioned last week, the beginning of the story with Blake will really start the following week.
JJ, I'm not sure how much football you got to watch over the weekend, but for what you did you have any thoughts coming out of it on the clock changes, or are you going to be like I think a couple of us said, and we need to see a bit more this weekend with a full array of games? Yeah,
I got to see more now. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any ball this weekend, man.
that's bad to say for a color guy, but I had a good friend. His mom passed away, man, and it was East Texas, so I had to make the jaunt out that way Saturday. But I think those clock changes, it's really going to change in the halves. I know it's still pretty much the same as stop when I think it goes out of bounds at the end of halves in the game, but it's gonna shorten the game a little bit, and make it a little tighter, and coaches have to coach differently. I'm really interested to see how coaches adjust.
Yeah, and I reeled off the number of plays that of 4 or 5 games, and they were mainly from 58 plays to around 75. There was one team that had 83 plays. I don't even know what the average is. I know that some have wanted to get to 90 or 100 because of the style of play. Is there a chance if Baylor gets their wide zone running like it did 2 years ago, it could milk away about an entire quarter the way that things are set up?
No, yeah, I think for a team like that Coach Aranda has and the scheme with Grimes and those guys, I think it helps. I mean, if you can kind of get your game going, they want to run the ball. They want to really, really stress your defense and then take some opportunities in the passing game. So, yes, if you get in a game against a strong running team, oh, man, you start getting anxious. And you can tell what'll happen is defensively, I think you'll see defensive coordinators maybe start taking a few more chances earlier because they know, that clock just isn't stopping. I get first down. It's still rolling. So it'll make a difference. It'll be interesting to see over the course of the season kind of how things hash out.
JJ, how many times do you think in your career did you run 75 or more plays in a game?
Oh, man, maybe twice a year, maybe once or twice a year. And those were typically going to be in blowouts where we really were killing the team and we were just running on them. I know SMU, we actually ran the ball 90 times one time. We didn't throw a pass. So it probably was a total. It was less than 10, easy. Our whole deal was to control the clock. We felt like if you got to 24 with our style of offense, you should win a really high percentage of your game. So this new advent of offense, man, it's like basketball on turf.
What was the offseason change, whether it be personnel, roster flipping over as it does even more so than ever these days, a coaching change? Just what was the biggest change that Dave Aranda had this offseason that excites you the most heading into this season?
I'm always interested to see, you had a team that went to two, I talked about this last week, 2 championship games in the span of 3 years. And for the most part, I know he made some changes in his coaching staff, had a few holdovers. So I'm interested to see the new faces because as I wrote today, sometimes when you have a little success, I know we had some tough years in there, some of the older guys can get a little bit, it's a little entitlement that can creep into your program, which every coach hates. And I think with Coach Aranda, I think it'll be good. He has a new DC, a guy that he's familiar with, so he really feels good about that. New voice for the players. And then I think you have a lot of new players that they see Baylor as a very successful program. You don't go to a Sugar Bowl and win a Big 12 championship and go to another in 19 and teams not see you as really encroaching and trying to push up to that upper echelon. So I think a lot of those guys want that, and it'll be interesting to see this new energy, that new juice from the new guys who, hey, man, I want some of what some of you guys have already experienced. So I'm interested to see how those new guys meld with guys like Matt Jones, Blake Shapen, Garner Randall, all those guys, how they all meld together.
Yeah, because last year they kind of teased everybody. Wins at Lubbock against Tech, and then the one in Norman. But and Dave Aranda mentioned this throughout the year. JJ, when Grant Tapp and Baylor were recruiting you, what was the message? Was that where you wanted to go? Is that where eventually they got you to go? And what was that like in your relationship with Coach Taff?
It was great. Coach Taff was a fantastic recruiter. He didn't have back then as much to recruit to. You had the Southwest Conference, which was, a stable conference for a while until Arkansas made the jump to the SEC. But Baylor didn't have those facilities like they have now. I mean, Coach Taff, I don't know how he got people to Waco, but he was really good at selling vision. He was really good at showing that he could develop guys and put them in the NFL. He was really good at letting you know that you do. I mean, the person over player deal, that's not new. It's just the tagline is new, but Coach Tapp really cared about his players as young men. And that he used to preach that to us all the time. So I think Coach Taft's sincerity to the parents and to the players eventually won out. In addition, he did find a way to win some big games. Didn't probably win as much as he wanted to, but based on the resources he had a really, really successful run.
JJ, thank you. Look forward to it. We'll have evidence Saturday evening, Texas State, Baylor. Ought to be interesting with what G.J. Kinney runs on offense and what Baylor's trying to do to bounce back. We appreciate your time. Can't wait to see you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback and also the color analyst on Baylor Radio. Ricky Thompson will join us, former receiver in Baylor Radio, on Wednesday in the 4 o'clock hour. When we come back, the 5 o'clock hour, saw Phil Bennett at a high school game on Friday night. His son-in-law's coaching for a local high school that we do in Midway. His thoughts, what did he see with USC defensively? How much of that game did he watch? And he mentioned it a week ago that Arizona State and the fact they didn't know what the violations might be, they may not know yet, but they violated something because they imposed a bowl ban on themselves, and that's next. Phil Bennett, 365 Sports.
Come shop the greatest selection in Central Texas and save big on Ram trucks during the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, 20% off MSRP or 2.9% for 72 months. The choice is yours. Plus, if you're a first responder, you get an extra $500 bonus cash. We've got the inventory and we're making big deals. Hurry in today. They won't last long. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop Ram trucks.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
5 o'clock hour, I have been wanting, it's always great to have Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach, on the show, but we saw him at a high school game Friday. We'll get to that. And he joins us with Paul Craig and David Smoak. Phil Bennett. So you mentioned that Arizona State, they didn't know yet what their violations were going to be or their penalties. They self-imposed a bowl ban. Your thoughts about that, and what was it like, you think, for players and Coach Dillingham the week of the first game they get this news?
Well, after everything that's happened, the comment about West Virginia, the way the coaching search went, I don't think anybody's that surprised. I feel bad for Kenny and the players and the staff. I don't think there's a plan in action whatsoever. I'm not sure it's going to affect the NCAA investigative people of this year. They had a chance to do it last year and didn't do it. And I have been inundated today with people that are calling me, talking about what my thoughts are. And I think it was 247. Dave came out and they just blasted. They really didn't see what Ray's trying to do, and it will be interesting. I'm interested to see Ray's comments on this.
Dillingham had comments today, I think it was, this morning at practice, and he was furious, as you could imagine. He made the comment he wasn't sure he even was told about this beforehand. You also made comments about Arizona State before with Crow and Anderson. I don't know if you know this or not, but it got into the Arizona media, and I don't think a lot of the people really are happy with Ray Anderson anyway. So this, to me, I'm not saying it's a death knell for him there, but it might be a tough thing for him to get through this.
I'm just telling you, I've thought that before, and there's a relationship there with he and Dr. Crow that somehow Ray seems to get the pass. And now, like I said, the people, I think, have had enough. And it's just not fair to those players. I'll tell you something else that does. That affects Kenny's recruiting. And it like I said, it was just for him not to be confronted and input is beyond ridiculous.
On the timing of it, if you do it in the spring or whenever people can know, and they can, if you're a senior and you want to maybe play in the postseason, you can transfer if you haven't before, and all of those different things. But to do it a week before the season when your roster is locked is just really, it's going to make it really hard for the players to go and see Ray Anderson walking around and not be mad at him until the end of the season.
I said this before, Craig, and I don't mean it personal, but right now there's too many people in college football in particular that are making decisions that aren't beneficial to their program or to college football. And this just verifies that from everything that's happened there the last 5 and 6 years, that there's a pattern of incompetency. And unfortunately, it's, as I've said before, it's a great place. It has tremendous potential, but I feel for those players and those coaches right now.
Coach, after this weekend, we'll be able to just throw any number of, brands and games out there that occurred. But on this opening weekend, how much did you dive into the handful of games or so that were out there, and what caught your attention most, if anything?
There's a couple of games that I think, starting off will be interesting. One of the things that if you look at the top 25, it's pretty much a lot of people what people expect. There's some teams that I think have a chance to be much improved, and you look. I don't think anybody right now can take anybody else for granted. I was telling a friend of mine that's a Baylor friend, G.J. Kinney at Texas State, they're going to be dangerous. And I know Dave knows that. Just talking about one game there. I think another game, you look at Cal going to North Texas. What's the weather going to be like? And can they adjust to it? That's just a few of interest. You've got New Mexico with a new roster coming to the Aggies. I think they're, the other thing is University of Texas. I mean, they are getting a lot of play right now. Are they going to be the team that they think they're going to be? So it really, everything's in front, and it's going to be interesting.
Did you get a chance to watch USC at all on Saturday evening?
I did.
What do you think? Obviously, they're explosive, but what do you think is the defense still seems to be a little loose? Is that going to take time, or is that who they are?
And I say this, I watched them with great interest last year. And I've always told you this, Smoak, you got to get lined up right. Getting lined up is the nut I always say alignment, stance, key, reaction, tackle. That's a defensive play. And if you can't get aligned right and you're not gap sound and you're not coverage sound, your chances for winning go down quite a bit. And I do. I give San Jose credit, but I think people didn't realize 2 of their touchdowns were on the kicking game. So that game very easily could have been a 35-28 game. It's just I watched them against Tulane. It's sort of ingrained in my mind, and I think I've told you this before, and I mean this. Coaching matters, and I think that I'm not sure that they're where they could be a championship team in that area right now.
Phil, this is Paul, and the defense that they have, you mentioned coaching matters because right now, based on talent assessment and where everybody wants to be, it seems like they've got the dudes on that side of the ball, the athletes that they need to run a defense, but right now, they just not really good at getting in your way.
Did you think, Paul, that they control the line of scrimmage?
No.
Against no. I mean, I don't either. I didn't either. I thought that that's one area. I remember when I was at SMU, we would play Oklahoma State, we would play Texas Tech, we would play A&M. That was an area on the front line that we couldn't control. They were stronger, more physical than us, and even though we played a couple of them close for a while, they eventually overpowered us. I didn't see that in that game. And now, let's go back. It's first game. They had a lot of transfers. They had guys that now I will say this: they were a better looking, athletic looking defense than the year before. But I will imagine that they're looking at it saying we've got a lot of work to do.
Coach, this is kind of random, but you brought up SMU, and there's so much talk still swirling about a little bit of lagging realignment when it comes to the ACC, and I'm not sure how much you know, but SMU is basically going to take no money for 7 years just to get a place in the ACC. Knowing that university, having been there, kind of knowing how it works, what are your thoughts? Is SMU a sleeping giant, or are they biting off a bit more they can chew? How do you kind of view them potentially getting a promotion?
Well, first of all, I've said this many times. When I was there, I'm actually David and Jefferson today visiting with Jerry, and we talked about what we would have liked to have had the things they have now with the staff that we have. But I'm not going to use the term sleeping giant. I think it's a capable place. I think now about the 7 years no pay. I just it would be hard for me to believe that the president that is still there would accept that. But sometimes when you feel you're getting left out, you'll do things to the extreme. So I think this. I think that they are a program and a school that would represent someone well.
Phil, you were at a high school game. We saw you Midway playing Mansfield, and obviously your son-in-law is on the staff at Midway as an offensive line coach. And I called you at halftime, and you've never, ever not just been honest, transparent, and just said how you felt. What is that like to watch a game like that? And do you try to pass along some knowledge, or is that just something you don't do?
Hey, you said it. You've got to be you. So when he was coming down, I had to tell him what I thought. It's once again, it's a game that when you're setting up there, I'm sure I look at a game different than most people.
Mm-hmm.
I look at alignments. I look at splits. I could just about call the plays in that game. Now, early in the game, the first play of the game, missed tackle at the front, second missed tackle. I didn't think they tackled very good the first half.
No doubt.
Second half, I thought they came back. And I tell you this, I really thought offensively they moved the ball. I think Shane has got them going in the right direction. They played hard, and you'll have to agree, Dave, that was a fun game to watch.
It was.
If you were a spectator, you saw two teams that really were pushing the button to win. And, being the first game and being on the road, as I told Shane, I think you can grow from that game. That wasn't a win. I don't think you accept it. But I think they can, and I'll tell you something. I can tell you, but you might agree, might disagree. A couple of the calls when Midway broke it down to the 10-yard out were horrible. I mean, they were homer calls, and it sort of turned the game on the other side. But in defensive Mansfield, they had some game breakers.
Yeah,
a running back and receiver really makes some nice plays.
So when was the last time you watched a football game just as a fan of football, or is it always going to be as a coach?
It's always going to be as a coach. Jerry and I are sitting here talking. We watched the UTEP last week, the UTEP Jack State game, and we're breaking it down. Now we'd have won that game, but there's a few of them I've said that and I didn't win it. But you just look at it different. I mean, you really do. And I think, as you look at the season, you look at teams that and guys you've worked with, can you get them better? And that's the thing that is always fun to watch. I'll tell you something. I enjoyed that game because it was hot. I thought the kids kept playing hard. Mm-hmm. The fans were in it. And like I said, I think Midway can they got a challenge this week with Permian, but I think they can step up to it.
Smoak, you would not ask a doctor. Like, I know that you're retired from surgery, but when was the last time that you took in, a lung transplant just as a fan? I mean, your brain works a different way. Phil?
Yeah, no, yeah. I know that, but I just, you can sit down and you want to drink a cold one and you watch a college game and you can't. I mean, you gotta be in your mode that you've been in for decades.
They call it, some people say, just wired different. And that's the truth. I can call my brothers or other coaches during games and our lingo is, game lingo. And it's just a fun thing about it. And I will tell you this.
Yep.
This time of year, with everything going on in the world and everything that we think is wrong, somehow, just like you said, we can get jacked up and get united over this oblong ball.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, everybody's ready for it.
You mentioned G.J. Kinney, Phil. We had him on earlier today, joined us on the show, Baylor, Texas State. He's going to run. And when Art did this and you had to practice against it, he put receivers basically out of bounds as far wide as possible. What does that do to a defense, and how do you combat it?
Well, first of all, if they get that wide, then let them. There's no play out there. The sideline's your friend. One of the first things Art used to tell me is, "Why are you moving your corners in?" I said, "Go ahead and throw it out there." And what was crazy, he could get these people, including Gary Patterson, to play press man with our guy who's almost out of bounds, and which takes one out of one, takes him out. So you've got to pack the middle. You've got to make them throw the ball at width. Don't let a lot of people say, well, they spread you, throw routes. They spread you to see how many people's in the box. And then I always tell this, Art had a great instinct of run pass. A couple of times that we didn't I can go back to the Michigan State game where we didn't run the ball probably enough. One of the few times, but that's when they go that wide as a defense, you got to let them, hey, you know what? If you want to throw the ball out there, we're going to tackle you for a short game. Now, it'll be interesting to see how the people at Texas State line up. It is amazing how many people over my 6-year career at Baylor that would walk down and cover down right on top of a guy that's almost out of bounds. And a safety that would expand off the numbers, off the hash, and leave the middle of the field wide open.
Wow. Yeah, that because they just were worried about, I guess, the distance
Right.
or the space is what it is called.
Well, you know, if it's Kendall Wright or Corey Coleman, or Reese, I mean, people were worried about that. So, and then, when your offense is take the best play, all of a sudden you run a fold. Go back to 2012, number one K-State and Lake Sistrunk going 80 yards. That's what we did. Look at that play. Look where their safeties are. And it went, he never got off the hash. You remember that, David?
Yep.
I mean, he never, once he broke the line of scrimmage, he never got off the hash. And that was one of those things. It's a numbers thing.
Were you coaching the day that Jerry, your brother, who you're with, I love him to death, from Jefferson High School, won a state title in '86, beat Cuero, beat Dangerfield earlier that year? Were you coaching that day, or were you able to watch him win that game at Kyle Field?
I want to tell you something. I was at Purdue, and we had signed Terry Johnson, the safety, who ended up being a great player for us, an all Big Ten safety. And back then we didn't have the radio deal, but I stayed on. My brother Jim would go to a payphone at Kyle Field and call me in West Lafayette and give me updates. And the first thing he told me was Jerry's little quarterback and Raphael, and he said, I don't care how good Strait is, they can't beat Jefferson. He said Jefferson's going to win, and they did.
Yep.
And, it was the start of something great around here.
Yeah, it was a run in that particular classification. Dangerfield, Pittsburgh a little bit before that, obviously with what Jefferson did in 86 as well. Man, it sounds like you're happy. Football season's about to begin, and it just kind of different, or do you have that itch? Do you have the itch to get ready?
I miss the relationship. I'm sitting here, I'm having a great day because I hadn't seen Jerry in a while, and we're sitting out on his house and his land and just visiting, talking about everything, a lot of football. But, I will miss the camaraderie. I'll miss the players. I was telling him how much I enjoyed the kids at North Texas, how I didn't think we were super talented, but they really worked hard, and I'll miss those things. But I do. I'm a football. I think football gives us, I've said this many times, Smoak, it builds so much more than just football. It's everything that you want to grow on. And I think it's a uniter. I think it unites people, and people enjoy it. And it's true. It's truly a game that the best win. Either you do it or you don't. And it's not for everybody. Everybody can't play it. And I think the fact that it separates some people from others, I like that, because it's not for everybody. And it is a joyous time of year.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time, Coach. It was great to see you Friday. Thanks you in insight and knowledge. Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach, with us on Mondays, and we'll have more games. He'll watch a lot more coming up this weekend, and then have some more feedback for us on the other side. Tanner Mordecai, Wisconsin starting quarterback, just around the corner. He will join us. Luke Fickell, of course, the new coach, affected the Big 12 change with Cincinnati. Now with their coach Satterfield, not Luke Fickell. So he's around the corner with us on 365 Sports. I want to get into one thing real quickly. The Wednesday meeting with the College Football Playoff Committee, the 12-team format we know is set, right? But it better be in erasable ink, because I think there's going to be a tremendous turf war. It's not, I think, just how many conference titles or conference champions get in. It to me is as big about who's going to get the money and how much are they going to break it down. If you have a 14-team conference or a 16-team conference, or God knows how large they're getting, and they get the same amount of money, which means some schools get less. So wouldn't it be better in that particular, if the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC get the same chunk of money, right? If the less schools you have, the more money each school is going to get. There's gonna be a turf war, not just on how they break it down, but also on how much money each of the conferences are going to get. Plus, the more teams you get in, the more money you get.
Well, yeah, and how how you split up the PAC money, who gets, like, who from the G5, how do they get any of that? Do they get any of that money? Or does that just go to the conferences, kind of like the ACC? Do the conferences, the 4 remaining conferences, split up that money and still let the G5 have one at-large spot? Like, this money is you paying us for us not kicking you out of this deal. I don't know. Like, it'll get tense, I'm sure, at times. I'm curious to see if they remain the top 6 conference champions, or they just do the top 5 and then take away an at-large bid.
Yeah, it'd probably be good to get some clarification, and I know myself I need to brush up on how all this goes, because you would think that the initial thoughts, the SEC and the Big Ten will just bully their way to having, a situation where, in theory, they could have like 8 of the 10 teams on any given year. Mm-hmm. But if everybody's involved, then wouldn't you be a little bit outgunned in pushing that through? Mm-hmm. So I need to brush up more on how exactly the voting goes, and, the timetable on how, this might evolve. But certainly it's a huge topic that is going to dictate in so many ways a lot of people's, plans moving forward, and just the plans for their program and the plans for how they envision the future and all those types of things. Because, if you all of a sudden you're in a situation where there's 10 teams, but there's no automatic qualifiers any longer, well, that's a big difference. That's a huge difference for the entire structure. But if there is, 6 automatic qualifiers somehow still, or 5 because they, take off the Pac-12 or what, like that too is huge one way or the other. So, yeah, there's some big decisions to be made. I think it would be fair to say right now that probably a good majority of people are nervous about the influence of those 2 top conferences in particular, and I think there's a fear of them sort of taking over the whole enterprise. And you can argue, that's not to say that on any given year, one might not have 3 of the best 5 teams. I think we kind of just alley-oop the Big Ten like they're the SEC on par every year, and that has not been the case for the last 20 years. Like, Ohio State and Michigan have been great. Penn State's had a moment, but yes, comparable financially, comparable historically, but present day, absolutely not. So why do they deserve... so like there's going to be a lot of conversations about, who wants what is owed, or what should be done differently, and all of that. And it's going to be a mess. You know that much. It's going to take some time to get through all of that and come out on the other end. But that end product, whatever that looks like, whatever that playoff structure is probably going to be the future for a good long while. So it's an important set of talks that are going to be commencing here.
All right, we're going to break here. We're going to come back with Tanner Mordecai, Wisconsin football player and also former high school star here in the Waco area. He's been at Oklahoma and SMU. 1 year left, and it's at Wisconsin 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. They have that location. Now they have a location downtown, not just a stone's throw from our studio here in downtown Waco on Franklin. Look, they're the same company, but different stores. The one downtown maybe focuses more on what's kind of trending. What are the hip drinks for, the younger crowd, the Instagram crowd, the TikTokers of the world. And if you are a craft beer or whiskey fan, go on down to the Lakeshore Drive, North 19th, the original location. They've got great craft beers, great craft whiskeys, especially when it comes to stuff from Texas. That's what they do. But Riverbend Liquor and Wine, no matter which location, same great customer service, same speedy service, and, of course, the drive-thru window at the one on Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street is so fast. They are fantastic. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, now with 2 locations to serve you.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people. Good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Couple of notes when we were discussing college football and much more. And, you know, this college football, Tanner Mordecai is going to be about 6 minutes later than we thought, as far as how are they going to split up the 12 teams. Some of you on the chat room earlier mentioning that there's no question that there's going to be more for the Big Ten and SEC. But that was the case no matter how the automatic bids go. They're going to end up with the larger chunk. How many do you think? 6, 5, that number between the Big Ten and SEC? And again, it depends on who's hot that year or whoever else is hot too.
I just think that the way that they're going to play this is to make sure that there are more at-large spots total available. That way they are guaranteed more than likely to get a team in, so they don't have to fight the uphill battle most of the time and explaining why. Like right now, they have to explain why they deserve 2 of the 4. It might be easier to describe why you deserve 5 of the 9 some years, I guess, or 4 of the 9, 4 of the 12, 5 of the 12. To them, and that way, because they have, look, there's at-large bids. These were if you take the top 12 teams, they had 5 top 12 teams. Here, they're in. So maybe it's a little easier for them to do that without having to, change the rules too much in their favor.
I mean, I think it's just simply that you're always going to have those two champions in, and now rather than giving away 4 other spots automatically, that those 4 spots are up for grabs so that more of those 2 can get in. That's simply all it is that, there's 4 spots that you are not going to have no matter what, that they are automatically going to somebody else that is not the Big Ten of the SEC. And under a different premise where there's not automatic qualifiers, there are no lockdown spots. So in theory, you could have 5 SEC teams if you wanted to. And that's ridiculous. That would never happen. Are we kidding? Do you know how much the 4th team gets propped up every year as though they played, like Alabama, and it's the schedule they played. So that politicking is already going to happen. And you know what? In some cases, it might be true where the 4th best team in the SEC is better than some other conference champion, or the 2nd or 3rd best teams in the Big Ten is perhaps, better than the Pac-12 champion on any given year. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but this is going to allow the argument of just they're simply better, so they deserve it more, rather than going out there and actually, qualifying automatically for it by winning your conference. It's an easier door to get through when you just leave it up to a free-for-all for debate and there's not any automatic qualifiers. So this plays right into the hands of a Big Ten or an SEC, because that's not going to swing the other way. There's not going to be a year where the 3rd team in the Big 12 is super deserving. I mean, I think we can already agree that's not going to probably happen often, if ever. And you know what? Maybe that 3rd team won't ever be deserving of a playoff, but those 2 will get the benefit of the doubt more than any other. And I think everybody's well aware of that. And to act otherwise would be just foolish, because we know that's the case.
Here's one commissioner who told The Athletic in the story from Nicole Auerbach and Chris Panini, I don't want it to sound like it's Pollyanna, but it's not a Texas steel cage match either. We've got to keep plotting the same way we were. And yet another comment from Bill Hancock, we're getting closer. We're going to get this done. And whatever he usually says, to me, I kind of just, it just kind of falls on deaf ears to me.
I mean, and here's the thing. I'm not anti those 2, and not that they, like I've said multiple times now, won't be deserving of multiple teams in any given year. Certainly the SEC, you can say at least their top 2 or 3 schools will almost be automatic qualifiers in any given year, right? I mean, the level of respect that they're typically going to receive. But I just want it, even if it is lopsided, I just want it to feel like everybody's involved. Just fool me, but give others a chance. You know what? There's no way nobody can ever win the national championship besides the SEC if only one team from this conference, that conference has ever allowed the opportunity to do it. Whereas, the Big Ten gets 3 in, and I know we're getting way too far ahead of ourselves, but I think that's just going to show you kind of where the thinking is, of that we all just sort of feel like and know this is where it's heading ultimately. And it's just, will this be the time that we just cut to the chase, or are we going to actually let everybody have a chance? Even though I know when we start off here, outside of 15 teams, nobody has a chance. But that's not the point. The point is that you believe that you do. The point isn't that you just shatter dreams right away. And there's not a chance in hell that, Kansas is going to win the national title. But at least let them have a chance and a belief that they can get into the playoff. I just feel like that's starting to already be lost. Even with an expanded playoff, we're already talking about how they're going to screw other teams out of it. So I just hope in the long run, however it's set up, that if you're a Kansas on any given year, or a UCF or a whoever, that you're a part of the dance. And if you get knocked out and blown out by Georgia or Alabama in the first round, then so be it. But every once in a while, TCU is going to jump up and beat Michigan.
Well, yeah. And look, we're not microwaving a burrito here. You know, you're like,
that would be a bad.
These things are going to take time. And part of the reason you hear a lot of the powers that be saying, well, they'll just get blown out anyway, is they know that over time, if you give other people resources, then they will beat you. And your stronghold on things will not be as strong, even though it'll probably still be pretty strong. But the thought of any kind of thing where you can lose a foothold makes the powers that be scared. So if you're going to say, oh, well, we're going to expand this out, well, okay, yeah, great, but make sure that doesn't hurt me in the long run. Yeah, and in the long run, things can change if you water that crop the right way. So, yeah, I think that if you give more opportunity, then more different people are going to win, and that number of 15 teams have a chance to win it every year might shoot up one year to 18. You might have 18 really good teams, but bottom line is, it's just going to be better, and they're going to create it politically to where
you really think there are going to be 18 really good teams?
I'm just saying, way down the line. Okay. If you really foster the system of a 12-team playoff and teams from all over the country with a chance to get in, then yes, eventually more teams will get better because more teams will have those resources. But the more you hoard, like we've seen, the reason the college football season's so small is there's a group of schools that want to kind of keep it small because if you let it out, if you let other people have it, then you can't win it as often.
Exactly. And then they tell us, well, it's for everybody's benefit because we don't need to see that team play that team. We already know what's going to happen. Oh, we do. It's like there's a lot of that just like, let's just skip a bunch of steps to get to the end goal. And that's the part that I don't like is like we're just assuming a lot. We're just assuming that no Big 12 team can ever have a chance, that we're just assuming that there's not two teams out of any given conference in any year that aren't the Big 10 of the SEC. I just feel like we're kind of fast-forwarding to get to the end game here, and I just don't like that taste in my mouth as far as like the feeling that we're compacting this thing and boiling it down to just a couple of platforms get the overall opportunity and the others can just be happy with what they get. And I get that all boils down to the money and all of that, but
doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't
mean you have to like it. Yeah, I don't like that.
Go say nothing.
I really don't have any desire, honestly, to see a college football NFL. I really don't. And my team would be in that. My team would be a top 5 draft pick, but I still don't have any desire really to see that.
JG Neolardo, preach, Craig, preach. Also, if the SC, golly, this thing's going. If SC wants more playoff spots, they should be required to play 10 conference games instead of playing UT Chattanooga. I'm with Craig on that. JG, I love a truthful Craig rant.
Thank you.
And let's see.
Well, and you can just see it's the way it's being arranged already.
Technically, the Big 12 runner-up beat the Big 10 champion.
Yeah.
But right?
And also, like, it's the same argument of, hey, listen, like, this is why we need to make sure that rich people stay rich because we wouldn't know what to do with the money.
Exactly. That's exactly what the hell it is, man.
You guys
exactly what it is.
You guys would not know what to do with this money, so it's better that we keep it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sure.
Except for I will give the two leagues, y'all are on screen. I'll give y'all the 2 leagues, aren't quite that scandalous as our government is, but I mean, they are for the most part one of those leagues going to be the one that does have the last say and is raising the trophy more often than not, and that's been the case for the past 20 years. But it very much does have that feel of like. Like last year, there'd be some people that TCU didn't even belong in anything.
Yep.
And what did they do? You gave them a chance, and they went and they took advantage of it. Now, we know what happened after that, but that first win meant something, and don't say that it didn't,
Yeah, no, well, right? Tanner Mordecai, starting quarterback at Wisconsin, played his football at Midway, and, of course, has been in college at Oklahoma and SMU. Tanner is Craig Smoak and David Smoak and Paul Catalina. We're glad to have you on. We appreciate it. I know it's a busy day, game week and more. How would you describe the experience at Wisconsin so far to date?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been great. I got here in January, and spring ball was good. We took some good steps, and then this summer's been awesome. The summer up here is very nice. Weather's awesome, and going to the fall camp, I think definitely as an offense, we've taken some good steps, and our team's ready to roll.
Got there in January and immediately didn't come back, so that's a good sign when you hit the snow there, Tanner. But you're stepping into a roster that there are a few transfers like you, but most of these guys have been together. How was that stepping into a room of guys that know each other well? You've done that once before, but you were younger. Now that you're an older player, how is it different?
I just came in and proved to them what this means to me, what the culture that they have established means to me. Put my head down and kind of went to work, try to lead by example at first. And once I gained some respect and trust, then try to take a more leadership role and build off of that.
Tanner, what's been the learning curve with Coach Longo and Coach Fickle and just trying to figure out, some of the subtle differences? Is there much of one? Is it kind of like old hat? And just what's that process been like feeling out the new offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, every coach in the air raid system calls it a little different, prepares a little different, does their own things that makes them special. And I think that was a learning curve for me, but besides that, it wasn't too bad.
Tanner, what are your expectations yourself, You've been in college football a long, long time. Everybody knows the story. What are your expectations? What was the message that Luke Fickell gave to you that convinced you to go play for the Badgers?
I mean, Coach Fick, he's a winner. I think that's what he's going to do as long as he coaches. And the goal for us is to win championships here, go play in Indianapolis in December. So we take care of that goal, and everything else will take care of itself.
Tanner, what do you have butterflies about your first Big Ten game? What's it going to be like to run out there for the first time at Camp Randall?
It's going to be awesome. I mean, this place is special, has a lot of history, a rich winning culture. So I'm excited to experience what Camp Randall has to offer on Saturdays in the fall.
Tanner, you mentioned getting there in January. I know you're a big outdoors guy. How much have you been able to experience that? I bet that if you have been able to, it's been quite the experience.
Yeah, in January I didn't do a whole lot outside. It was quite the weather shock. Yeah, but this summer I golfed a lot and I fished a lot. There's a lot of good places to fish. A lot of guys like to fish, so this summer was great. Wasn't one of your offensive linemen running buddy with you to go fishing? Did you go salmon fishing? Yeah, Tanner Bordolini took me salmon fishing on Lake Michigan. It was awesome. Got some big salmon.
There's a fight in salmon, right?
What's that?
There's some fight in those, right?
Some fight in those?
Some fight. When you're reeling in a salmon, they fight hard, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they fought a lot harder than I expected. They're pretty thick. How much have you and Grant Calcaterra communicated? I know he had married over the off season. Yep. You went to his bachelor party. You guys are tight from your time at Oklahoma. How much do you communicate with him? Me and him either text or call almost every day. Like you said, I was in his wedding this summer. Which is a good time. He's doing really well in Philly. He'll be on the 53-man easily this fall. And, he's going to have a great career up there. Braylon Allen, the running back, tremendous player. And I know there are more. Wisconsin's known for the great running backs over the years. What's it like to have him as someone you get to hand the ball to, whenever it might be? Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that has no weaknesses in the backfield. He's a big dude, but he can cut, and he's very explosive. So, I can't wait to see what he does this fall. What has been the reaction to, and I know that it hasn't been much of a sneak peek, but the reaction of Wisconsin fans to the style of play that they're about to watch, because we've known what their style has been for so long? Yep. I mean, it is different than what people are used to seeing on TV from the Badgers, but I think people have embraced it. I think they're very excited to see what we had to offer, even if it is a little different. So I think people are excited to see it.
If I had told you when you were 15 or 16 years old that you would be the starting quarterback at Wisconsin one day, would you have been like, I don't know about that?
I don't think I would have believed you. But, I mean, things happen. Don't have any regrets, and I'm happy to be here. Tanner, we've watched you since you were 15 years old and what you did in high school, and we've followed you along the way and have had you on no matter where you've been. What is the most fired up you ever remember being as a player, no matter what level? Is there a certain moment that you kind of sticks out more to you than any others? I mean, really, maybe my first experience on Friday nights back whenever I was 15, like you were talking about against Wake Travis at home. Oh, I think that's what really made me fall in love with football over baseball. And I mean, at that moment, I realized football is what I wanted to do. So I think that might have been my true moment of realizing that this is the game I want to play. And there were some great moments back then. Okay, there's all. Go ahead. Yeah, I was just saying that was a long time ago. It seemed like it was. That's obviously a train that just went blowing right by. Yeah. Is that your condo, your house, or what? No, I'm at the facility. Okay. I'm at the facility outside.
Okay, I know you got meetings to get into. Did you get to play Whistling Straits?
I wish. No, I didn't get out there. I will one day, but I didn't get it. I didn't get the chance to get out there this summer. But I'll be back to play it at some point.
How much do you still just love the game that you had when you mentioned when you were 15, when it kind of you fell in love with it?
I mean, if anything, I just fell more in love with it. Especially just learning from different perspectives and different coaches. It's been awesome. It's been a blessing. I think I'm in good hands here in Wisconsin, so I think it's going to be a fun fall.
When you decided to transfer, when you decided not to go NFL and you were going to play one more year, where was Wisconsin on the pecking order of who contacted you the quickest?
They're the only one. I wasn't giving any other place a chance. Just a combination. I think Coach Longer is at the top of the game of offensive mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's special at what he does, and the opportunity of coming here was by far the best, and I didn't really want to give any other place a chance at that point.
It's good to know. Thank you, Tanner. I know we had you on just after the decision. We've always appreciated the access. Good luck with the opener and also moving forward, and thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Tanner Mordecai moved up there earlier in the year, and his father, Micah, told me they just haven't seen him much. And he loves that kind of, I guess you could say, the outdoors. He's an outdoorsman, always has been.
Let me ask you this. If you were up there this summer, would you have come down here to see, no.
With all due respect to Mama and Papa, no.
Look, I know that, Micah, and it's got to work and everything, but I would have been using as much vacation as I could have to get up there and get out of the weather.
He's enjoyed himself. He said he's been able to play on some courses that are just spectacular. There's a bunch of them in that area.
But we did have rain for a couple hours yesterday, off and on.
Craig, did it ever rain where you were?
Just barely. Yeah, barely at all.
Garrett, you get blown away a little bit?
Yeah, we got a lot of rain. The wind was insane. It rained actually about 2 or 3 different times over in Robinson.
So it was weird. It was kind of a mid to late afternoon.
Yeah.
And I got a call from Mr. Browder, he had come up from Austin, and he brought a bunch of enchiladas that he wanted to give to me. And so I went out, he listened around the corner, and as I'm getting in my car, you see that kind of dirty air, that dirty sky. I mean, it came down hard, rain for quite some time. It was great to have. Also, real quick note, Victor Hovland. It's a Big 12 guy from Oklahoma State, won the PGA Tour, the Tour Championship, 18 plus $5 million. Do you have the quote? Garrett, this is a great quote. When someone asked him about the money, I live in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Money goes a long way there. And he is a stud at 25 years old. The round he had last week to win it, and then to win it again this week, the PGA Tour Championship. 5:51, Paul Catalina's Top 5 is next. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. And it's very simple. You contact them, PettyClinicLowT.com, email, phone number, left-hand corner. And what Dr. Petty will do, and you can say, hey, the symptoms, I've heard Smokey or others discuss it. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues, whether it's ED or your sex drive's not the same, or it's your sleep habits or maybe your energy. It could be low testosterone. And so how do you find that out? Dr. Petty, contact him and his staff. They will then set you up to get your blood work. They'll take care of that for you. Then they'll get the results once you get there. And if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
It's another time to speak with Samantha Duvall from TexasBeefHouse.com, handles the marketing, and someone that you will talk to a lot when you do call for the great product of the Texas-raised Wagyu beef. It's college football season, tailgating, it's a big deal. People love to put beef and pork and chicken, etc. on the grill. Let me know what you have.
We've got everything. If you've got a morning game, you can get our breakfast sausage or our bacon. You can tailgate with some breakfast tacos. If you've got an afternoon or evening game, we of course got our hamburger patties. They're half-pound patties, 4 patties to a package, and we even have jalapeno and cheese patties. They're amazing. They'll blow your mind. Just that extra flavor, not too spicy. They have a high-heat cheese so they don't melt on the grill, and our patties don't shrink up on the grill either. Anytime you order, use our code SICK'EM10 to get 10% off your order of $100 or more.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. That's Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
It's presented by Texas Beef House. I guess I played the wrong.
I tell you, the other
opener
day they're outside of Tyler, and that they had somebody in Tyler who watches our show, watches 365 Sports, contact them. So they thought that they had heard it based on marketing in the city of Tyler, and it was from us.
Oh,
so that's
awesome.
great to know.
All right, top 5 names to know after week 0. I thought this would be a good time to introduce some of the people we saw this weekend that you may hear a lot about, or maybe not so much after this week. But top 5 great performances this last week. Number 5, University of Hawaii wide receiver Pofele Ashlock, 7 catches, 127 yards and a touchdown. That game was probably a lot closer than Vanderbilt thought it was going to be. And Clark Lee has been selling hard trying to sell the belief that this is kind of doing what Scott Drew did at Baylor. Mm-hmm. When he came here, I've seen the clip because his 20th anniversary was just last week, and they came to win a national championship, and 20 years later they did, or 18 years later they did. Unfortunately for Clark Lee, I don't think anybody's going to give him 18 years to try to do that, even in the SEC being Vanderbilt and kind of having a bit of more rope there because you've got more of a mountain to climb. But Hawaii, back to Ashlock, really good. That was a good game the other night, back and forth. Not sure how I feel about either team. I was impressed with Hawaii given everything that they're going through just outside of what's gone on in Maui. I mean, they're on Oahu, but they don't play in their big stadium. They're in their practice facility. It's been pretty hard. They're all the way in Nashville playing the game, and it was a really good one the other night.
I didn't get to watch that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good win for Vanderbilt from the standpoint of not winning that game would have felt like a disastrous start to the season and everything that they're trying to build there in Nashville. They got to avoid the jet lag, whereas Hawaii will now be dealing with that. But, they put up a nice fight in Nashville, and, Vanderbilt was fortunate to walk away with a win there. But, Ashlock had a nice game for Hawaii with over 100 yards, got in the end zone, and they got a little something with him.
Yep. Number 4. Also in that game, Jaden McGowan from Vanderbilt. You're probably going to hear this guy's name a lot in SEC games. He's, in my opinion, by far the most talented player on Vanderbilt. Had the long kickoff return, also 6 catches for 72 yards, 2 carries for 11 yards. But the ridiculous kickoff return where he just hit the Jets and scored. This is the brightest spot for Vanderbilt. This guy can straight up and down boogie. Looking forward to seeing how it shakes out for him this year because he is fun to watch when he gets the ball.
Yeah, explosive player, and they're going to need a lot more of him, but he was very impressive on the kickoff return and just his speed and getting to the end zone and all the energy that brought. I don't know what the future really holds for them as far as the rest of their slate goes, but, like I said a moment ago, it's big for them to get a win at home in game number 1 and set the tone the right way, even though it was a game they had to hold on to.
Number 3. Jaden Greathouse from Notre Dame. We know him in Texas here because he went to Austin Westlake. True freshman, was the leading receiver for the Irish. 3 catches for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns along at 35, including Sam Hartman's first ever Notre Dame touchdown pass. Jaden Greathouse caught that one. And as a true freshman, most of the wide receivers that are going to be playing for Notre Dame are true freshmen. He's already established some really good rapport, clearly, with Sam Hartman, and that showed against Navy. Now, granted, this is not one of Navy's best rosters that they've probably tried it out. First year under Brian Newberry, there's going to be some growing pains there, but Notre Dame did exactly what they were supposed to do in Dublin on Saturday, controlling the game from start to finish, running the ball well. Sam Hartman was very Sam Hartman, and the reason I didn't put him on this list is you already know who he is, but it was a great game for Notre Dame all the way around, and nice momentum builder to start the year compared to last year where they dropped their first couple.
Yeah, he's a big target. I thought he was taller than they actually listed him as, 6'1". Maybe that's because high school he seemed to dwarf over most of the guys that were covering him, but a big target, has great speed, also a possession receiver at the same time.
Notre Dame doesn't normally grab a lot of offensive players from Texas. I mean, they had Durham Smythe a few years ago that's gone on to have a nice little NFL career from Belton. But for the most part, it's kind of hit or miss. I mean, I've been doing the Earl Campbell Award, which solely focuses on Texas guys for close to a decade now, and I could, on less than one hand, name the number of Notre Dame guys from Texas that have factored into that award. So to see player already making an impact, but one who's a true freshman as well, and Greathouse is awesome to see. That might get some more Notre Dame representation for that award. But, yeah, really good first game. They got a trip to Ireland and had a pretty breezy time with the actual game itself. The reason why they were ultimately there, didn't have too much trouble with Navy, which, wasn't a surprise, but he was certainly a bright spot and somebody with a bright future ahead, it looks like. Yep,
number 2. Smoak Harris from Louisiana Tech. This was my favorite player from the weekend just because he is 5'7", 183, and I think that 5'7" is generous. 11 catches, 155, and a touchdown against FIU in a game that was a lot closer, and I think that Sonny Cumbie wanted it to be. Hank Bachmeier, who used to be at Boise State, the quarterback there at Louisiana Tech, but, man, this guy – super fun to watch. I think you're going to see a lot of Smoak Harris highlights when you watch Louisiana Tech this year. But, man, just fast, little, anytime that there's somebody that's, in the 5'7" range, I relate to that. And so I hope that
so you're relating
not the 183 thing, but the 5'7" thing. Believe me, I live it every day. And, you're doubted if you're under 5'8" in this country, 5'9". People doubt you and don't think you can do things like reach jars.
So are you under 5'8" or 5'9"?
I mean, it depends on what day.
Yeah.
It depends on what day. But, if you're under a certain height in this country, people doubt you. And Smoak Harris has to face those doubters every day. Do I need a stool to change this light bulb? Probably. And
I saw him catch a pass, and all of a sudden he split a couple of defensive backs like they were standing still.
Yeah, it's easy to see why he's got the nickname of Smoke. I mean, he is fast as lightning, and he will leave a smoke trail for sure. But, yeah, very good athlete, dynamic type of player that was on full display. And, he's fun to watch, and I don't think this is the last that we hear from him. And, certainly he's going to help shake up things there. I think having Bachmeier there, too, a guy with all the experience that he has, La Tech's going to have some fun moments this year.
And number 1, Zachariah Branch, a true freshman receiver at USC. They're going to use him all over the field. Had a long kickoff return, also caught a touchdown in the game, scored twice. USC doubles up San Jose State 56-28. And, of course, the story in that one is that, San Jose State didn't really get stopped all that much when they were trying to score. Just USC scored a whole lot more than they did. But you're going to hear Zachariah Branch's name a lot. He is a really, really exciting true freshman player to watch.
Yeah, the little flip pass, that was neat. That was one thing. But the 96-yard kick return, and they needed it because San Jose State was hanging around. That was very explosive and dynamic, and it almost the way he cuts back was very Reggie Bush-esque without trying to compare him to Reggie Bush.
But you just did.
I did. As far as
without trying to,
the electricity,
exactly
the way he runs with the ball.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, Lincoln Riley teams are always going to have fun, fast, explosive playmakers, especially on offense. And, that's a guy who is certainly fitting that bill already, and excited to see, who else emerges, because the defense might not be that great. We'll see. Time will tell ultimately, but that offense is going to be pretty good and is going to have some dynamic dudes. And, he was on full display in week number 1.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Garrett Ross, Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway. Thanks to all of you who are a part of the text line, the chat room today, and those of you watching or viewing us on the app that aren't a part of that as far as the constant chatter that goes on in the text line. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, and also thanks to our amazing sponsors. We're back at it again tomorrow at 3, Paul's show at 1, and then 3. It's all three of us. This is 365 Sports, and good night.